Well, black people are Native Americans. We've had, a lot of proof that, some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton, had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
How was the dramatization? How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank really is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have the largest...
He didn't exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can want Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Peace, family. OCO family. What's going on? What's going on? Shout out to everybody in the building. Sorry I'm late, you guys. I'm late because the exterminator came, because I kept getting cobwebs. I didn't know cobwebs is the same as spider webs. It's just old, slow. But anyway, the exterminator came, and when he started spraying, I had to start dusting and cleaning and things of that nature, sweeping and mopping, because I just, it's just something I do whenever they come every 3 months, so that happened. And girl, I had a daddy long leg spider on my ceiling. He just picked it up with his hand, and he was black. I said, oh no, you done lost your mind. But anyways, that's why I'm late. So I'm sorry, you guys. And then I had to get myself together. So shout out to everybody in the building. You guys like the video. If you have not already, please like the video. We're going to get into the 13 colonies. Well, that too. But the Louisiana Purchase. Thank you, Chocolate Bunny, for the super chat. She says, thank you for doing this topic, Voodoo. No, thank you guys for giving me the topics, because we got to figure out the whole United of the States, okay? All right? This is extremely important, you guys. Now, if y'all remember, who was over there? How do I want to ask this to see if y'all be paying attention? Y'all like the video? New York, Boston, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, all them areas. Who was the group of people that got over there, that went over there? Who was the group of people that took over New York and them? Who was the people? We gonna get into it, Zaria. Who was the people that went up to New York and them and took over all of them people? Who? What set of nope, not the English. Nope, not the English. There goes the Dutch. Thank you, Belinda. It's the Dutch. The Dutch, the Dutch, the Dutch. Yes, Nikki. Yes, Arthur Empress. Yes, the Dutch. Me. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Typography. It was the Dutch. All right. Now, so that's that area. Should I pull up a map so we can get visuals? Let's go get a map. I feel like a map give us a better, visual or whatever. Let's go get a map. See, map of U.S. states. Oh, I already knew. See how this thing be listening, girl? See how I be listening? Mm-hmm. No, I ain't mean to click on that. I don't want to watch. I don't want to see this. Well, we can use it. Matter of fact, I got a map. I'm tripping. I got a map. So let's go get this map. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on, let me make sure. No, I can go through Gmail. Before I share this, let me pull it up so we can get visuals on these things, okay? So now we got the Dutch up over there in the corner in the northeast. That's the Dutch up there. Here we go. Why it look like this? The hell? Not this one. I'm sorry, you guys. All right, I'll just use this one. All right. Can I make this bigger? No, that's too big. We can go from here. All right, so we got the Dutch over here in this area, right? The Dutch, they pulls up. I wish I could just select this within itself. Let me see, can I? No, because people sell stuff. All right, so we got the Dutch over in this area, you guys. The Dutch have come in through this way. They're doing fur trade. They're doing all kinds of craziness. And mind you, they coming in. You got the British also coming in. They having their conflicts with the Indians over in this territory. That's the Dutch all up in here. Now, who was it that come in through here? Who was it that come in this area? Put it in the comments. Who was the person that came? This was the first person that came here. This was the very first person that come through here. Up and from, let's say, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas. Who? DeSoto. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Zaria. DeSoto. Now, they over here. Now, mind you, all of this is happening somewhat simultaneously. Thank you, guys. Thank you. But this is how they come. It was strategic. It was like war training, right? So now we got the Dutch coming up all up and through here. Now, they're going to take care of all of this. I mean, not the Dutch, DeSoto and his people, right? They coming in Spain. They coming in doing their 1-2 yin. Now, mind you, they had already had a game plan through the doctrine of discovery to take all of this over anyway, not just in North America, but the Americas, period, right? So now, boom. Now, who were the explorers that went over, that they sent over to the West Coast with Kendrick Lamar and the man? Who that was? Let's see if we on it. Who went around there to go talk to them people while they was gambling about the churches and all of that stuff? What's going on, B-Dub? Who that was went around there? Y'all remember? There go Miss Lily. Thank you. Lewis and Clark. If you ever, B-Dub, if you ever forget, just think about not Batman. What is it? Who's some people? Superman. Lois and Clark. Yes, Lewis and Clark. That's who they was, right? Now, mind you, this is all strategic. Them people trying to get all of this land. That's the whole thing. So now we're going to get into the French and the Spanish. Now, me being from New Orleans, Louisiana, we have a huge Spanish or Spain and French influence. because those were the people who came in. Listen, also remember this. Also remember this, you guys, as it pertains to the Spanish and the French. Remember, I told you, none of these people like each other. They are just able to put their differences aside to work toward the greater good. These people don't mess with each other. Spain and France bumped heads. They did not like each other. Spain felt like France was too lenient. France just wanted to party, get drunk, and have a good time, and sleep with the Negroes or the slaves or whatever the case may be. Spain despised France. They thought they was lame. They thought they was stupid. They thought they was drunkards. They thought that they just thought that they were just horrible Catholics. You know what I'm saying? But the French was like, it's not that deep. Yeah, we coming in here, we getting our land. Yeah, of course we got slaves because we need them to help build up this what you call them. But for the most part, y'all OD. It's not that deep. They got into it so much so that France watched Spain. I told y'all this before. France watched Spain build up downtown New Orleans, or what was downtown New Orleans, so-called the French Quarter, St. Louis Cathedral, all of that. They sat back and watched, and they partied, and they ate, and they had a gay old time, okay? And right when they finished, France went to war with them and beat them up and took it. So the French Quarter in 2024, although it's called the French Quarter, all of the buildings are from Spain. You get it? The St. Louis Cathedral, that is a Spain cathedral. So the French got drunk, had a gay old time. They watched them do all the hard work and heavy lifting. They was doing all kind of craziness, just having a good time. They just, hanging out with the Negro gals, having a good time. And as soon as they finished, they beat Spain up and took it. So that's a quick little funny history lesson for everybody if you ever wondered about the French Quarters. Yes, it's called the French, but ain't nothing in their French. Nothing. Let me say that part again. It's called the French Quarters, but ain't nothing in there of French influence. It's all Spain. Just a little tip for tat. But they didn't like each other, right? So now France and Spain are having issues, but yet they want this territory because there was the 13 colonies. Let's go get the 13 colonies because the 13 colonies began to be formed. And this is with Thomas Jefferson and all of them. They had the 13 colonies. This is your first America, or if you want to call it that. The 13 colonies is your very first America. This is where you're going to find what America was in the United States before they took over everything. Let me pull it up.
This is how it feels to live blissfully.
Oh, all these damn pop-ups. You get off of here. All right, now let me show you guys the 13 colonies. So while all of this is Thomas Jefferson, you know what? Before we get to the 13 colonies, let's go get Thomas Jefferson. Let's go get him. Let's go get him so we can figure out who the third president of the United States was. Now, y'all know me. I know that a lot of them people were Negropeans, but we gonna go with the fact that he was clear, okay? But they whitewash everything. I've showed y'all that. So the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, is who we dealing with. All right, Thomas Jefferson, a spokesman for democracy, was an American founding father, the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, 1776, and the third president of the United States from 1801 to 1809. Yes, Thomas Jefferson loved him a good black woman. Yes, loved him a good black woman. He loved the thick grits and red beans and rice eating women. Yes, he did. It says, in the thick of party conflict in 1800, Thomas Jefferson wrote in a private letter, I have sworn up the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. This is a powerful advocate of liberty. This powerful advocate of liberty was born in 1743 in Albemarle County, Virginia, inheriting from his father, a planter and surveyor, some 5,000 acres of land, and from his mother, a Randolph high social standing. So remember, back then, people didn't marry for love. That just started. People married for resources. So the daddy was a successful planner, and the mama had the social status. That automatically puts Jefferson in the right clubs. It's almost like they would be in the boule of the clear people. Let's just go with the fact that he was clear. So he's already born into the club. He studied at the College of William and Mary, then read law. In 1772, he married Martha Wales Skelton, a widow, and took her to live in his partly constructed mountaintop home in Monticello. Freckled and sandy-haired. Sound like let's move on. Rather tall and awkward, Jefferson was eloquent in court as a correspondent, but he was no public speaker. In the Virginia House of Burgesses and the Continental Congress, he contributed his pen rather than his voice to the patriot cause. As the silent member of the Congress, Jefferson at 33 drafted the Declaration of Independence. In the years following, he labored to make its words a reality in Virginia. Notably, he wrote a bill establishing religious freedom enacted in 1786. Jefferson succeeded Benjamin Franklin as minister to France in 1785. His sympathy for the French Revolution led him into conflict with Alexander Hamilton when Jefferson was Secretary of State in the President Washington's cabinet. So Jefferson was against the French Revolution, okay? Let me say this. He was one of them ones who was like, y'all ODing. Okay? That's basically how he was. Like, I get it. We got to do X, Y, and Z, but y'all ODing. But, you know, I'm not saying that clear people didn't sympathize with us because they absolutely did, but it's kind of starting to give, a lot of these people weren't as clear as we thought, or at least they paint them to be. Because it says his sympathy for French Revolution led him into conflict with Alexander Hamilton when Jefferson was Secretary of the State of Presidents in Washington's cabinet. He resigned in 1793. So moving on, it says sharp political conflict developed and two separate parties, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans, began to form. Jefferson gradually assumed leadership in the Republicans, who sympathized with the revolutionary cause in France. Attacking Federalist policies, he opposed a strong centralized government and championed the rights of states. Let me also say this. Even to this day, you wonder why these presidents be so engulfed in foreign affairs, because they are foreigners. They are foreigners. That's why, and plus a lot of them be having some dirty work going on around them, okay? But they're foreigners. That's why they're so invested. It says, as a reluctant candidate for president in 1796, Jefferson came within 3 votes of election. Through a flaw in the Constitution, he became the vice president, although an opponent of President Adams. In 1800, the defect caused a more serious problem. Republican electors attempting to name both president and vice president from their own party cast a tie between Jefferson and Aaron Burr. The House of Representatives settled the tie. Hamilton, disliking both Jefferson and Burr, nevertheless urged Jefferson's election. So Alexander Hamilton was on that lesser of two evils type tease. When Jefferson assumed the presidency, the crisis in France had passed. He slashed Army and Navy expenditures, cut the budget, eliminated the tax on whiskey, so unpopular in the West, yet reduced the national debt by 1/3. So he was actually a pretty decent president. He also sent a naval squadron to fight the Barbary pirates who were harassing American commerce in the Mediterranean. Further, although the Constitution made no provision for the acquisition of new land, Jefferson suppressed his qualms over the constitutionality when he had the opportunity to acquire the Louisiana territory from Napoleon in 1803. Now, we're going to get in Napoleon, too. Y'all hear how they say Napoleon complex? That was that little bitty boy, the little bitty nigga from France. That's the Napoleon Bonaparte. We're going to get into him. During Jefferson's second term, he was increasingly preoccupied with keeping the nation from involvement in the Napoleonic Wars, though both England and France interfered with their neutral rights of American merchantmen. Jefferson's attempted solution, an embargo upon American shipping, worked badly and was unpopular. Jefferson retired to Monticello to ponder such projects as his grand designs for the University of Virginia. A French nobleman observed that he had placed his house and his mind on an elevated situation from which he might contemplate the universe. He died July 4th, 1826. What a doggone coincidence. It was the 4th of July. You know what I'm saying? But that's a little piece on Jefferson. Third president, he coming in, he sided with the French. You know what I'm saying? They didn't say here if he was of French descent. Wouldn't surprise me, because while he's had so much sympathy for the French, we'll never know. Nevertheless, he was one of these people who were over here acting as president, another foreigner. Everybody's foreigner except us. Now, let's get into the 13 colonies, because this is what we need to talk about. There's a video here I want to show you guys. Let me see. All right, let's go here.
Stayed strong today, but it began with no fees or minimums and no.
I'm sorry, y'all. Is that a, oh, I see what it is. That's a commercial inside of the video. Got it.
The U.S. is 50 states strong today, but it began as 13 small colonies. It all started with Virginia, when wealthy London businessmen asked the British king to set up shop in what was known as the New World. 104 British colonists settled at Jamestown, forming the first permanent American colony. Next up, Massachusetts, founded after being established by the Pilgrims, who sailed the Mayflower to Plymouth. 6 years later, New York was pioneered by the Dutch, who called it New Amsterdam. Maryland, which became home to Puritans, Quakers, and Catholics, who didn't always get along, was established in 1634. Maryland was followed by Connecticut, when 100 Puritans left Massachusetts to start a new colony at Hartford. And Rhode Island, which was originally called Red Island by the Dutch. Delaware and New Hampshire, which at various points were part of Maryland and Massachusetts, came next. Virginian colonists established North Carolina 10 years before South Carolina was granted a charter, forming one Carolina colony until 1712. New Jersey was first settled in 1664, though the small future garden state was actually two parts for nearly 40 years. Pennsylvania was granted to William Penn in 1681. In payment for a debt the British king owed Penn's father. That leaves Georgia, which was established as a penal colony for English debtors, and a buffer zone between the British colonies and Florida, which was...
Pay attention to how these colonies are now divided up into states. You got Georgia, that was a whole colony. That included Mississippi, Georgia, and Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. That was the Georgia colony. South Carolina, they had all of this land, hit this and a little bit up here. North Carolina had all of this, and then, because I can't see what the states are. I don't know the states off the bat. And then Virginia had all, their colonies were up here. So be mindful of that, because when they naming these states after people. Louisiana after after King Louis. You know what I'm saying? St. Louis after King Louis. So these places are named either after old places from where they come from, like New Amsterdam, New York, you know what I'm saying? New Orleans. These are places where they either come from or people. These people are putting stamps in all of this territory. Mind you, they buying and selling territory, and the Indians is over there saying, how, Sway? We didn't make these deals with y'all. But this is why you can further see that this is they were prisoners of war. There was no way that these people unalived all of them so-called Native Americans, so much so that they damn near less than 1% of the population now. It does not make sense. This whole landmass was amassed with people. They didn't unalive all them people. They just didn't. It's impossible. The only way they would be able to unalive all these people is if they dropped a nuclear bomb. That's the only way. They would have to literally drop a nuclear bomb on this whole North America to unalive all them people. They lying. That's how you know the so-called Native American aren't the original people. Because if so, there will be way more than them. But there is a group of people that can't be explained the way that they got way more than they give credit to. You get it? So keep that in mind when you're listening to this crap.
controlled by the Spanish. Spain held on to Florida until 1821, a full 45 years after the original 13 colonies became the United States of America.
So boom, your 13 colonies, right, were the first America. Spain got Florida down here, and Florida consists of the bottom of Georgia, the bottom of Alabama, the bottom of Mississippi. You see what I'm saying? This is all, listen, this is where your first America comes from. This is your first America. Now, Thomas Jefferson is running this. He's the president of this. He's the president over here. Now, he's looking westward. Mind you, the source of him wanting to expand west was the Mississippi River. That's your gold mine. That's your gold mine, the Mississippi River. You need to get access to that Mississippi River. You have to. In order to be successful, if you don't get access to that Mississippi River land mass, you're not going to make it, because them people going to get the farming and farming. Mind you, while all of this is going on, you got Indian wars happening all over this place. East Coast, West Coast, down south, up north, because Indians are fighting and fighting back. Right? So they got 50 million fires to put out while they're trying to create this colony. This is why the strategy of pitting everybody against each other worked best, because it was too many people. It was too many tribes in America. No way they would have been able to do it with everybody. You know what I mean? Even if we beefing, just like they could put their differences aside, I promise you, we would have, a lot of us, and did. Especially in the Seminole Wars, all them Indian wars, it was a lot of Indians from everywhere that put their differences aside to fight with these people. But they were very strategic in pitting them against each other, getting them to beef, saying, hey, if you need backup, I got you, bro. And as soon as you ended up wiping out the people they want you to wipe out, then they turn on you and enslave you and make you POWs along with the POWs you captured from going to war. Okay? So keep that in mind. Here's your original America. This was other folk. This your original America. Now they need to expand west because they need to get access to this Mississippi River. That's where the gold mine is. That, and also on the West Coast. But America runs through that Mississippi to this day. That Mississippi River, that America does not exist without that Mississippi River. Okay? So now that we've done that, I want to read a couple things, and then we're going to move on to Napoleon as. 16th century England was a tumultuous place because they could make more money from selling wool than selling food. Many of the nation's landowners were converting farmers' fields into pastures for sheep. This led to a food shortage at the time. At the same time, many agricultural workers lost their jobs, right? Let me move on. Hold on. Let me see. Did I start at the beginning? Oh, no. Here you go. So let's get into it. The 13 colonies founded along the eastern seaboard in the 17th and 18th centuries, that's the 1600s and 1700s, weren't the first colonial outposts on the American continent, but they are the only ones where colonists eventually pushed back against British rule and designed their own version of government to form the United States. Now, I want you guys to remember this. Remember how the Dutch lost their land up in the Northeast? Because the Dutch needed backup. And what did Great Britain come in and say? We got your back. Don't worry about it. We got your back. And then Great Britain took the land from up there from the Dutch too. Keep that in mind. They was cutthroating each other now. Don't get it twisted. But when it comes to between them and us, they're going to always stick beside their people. Thank you for becoming a member, Kiki31. Thank you so much. They're going to always stick beside their people. They're going to cutthroat their people, but for the greater good of their own people. But if it comes between us and them, they're not cutthroat. They're not backstabbing their people. You guys hit the like button. So, but they were the ones where colonists eventually pushed back against British rule and designed their own version of government to form the United States. The 13 original colonies, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina, and Georgia. That's your 13 colonies. So if you ever have to think about it, say from Georgia all the way up to New Hampshire. That's your 13 colonies. That's your first America. British colonists, for a range of reasons, from the pursuit of fortunes to escape from religious persecution to the desire to create new forms of government. Now, it's crazy how they holler about religious freedoms, but the whole point of them even coming over here was to captivate the land, and captivate the people, and then push religion on us. You see what I'm saying? That's why you know it's a bunch of bull crap. But like I was saying earlier, English colonial expansion, 16th century England was a tumultuous place because they make more money from selling wool than from selling food. Many of the nation's landowners were converting farm fields into pastures for sheep. This led to a food shortage at the time. Many agricultural workers lost their jobs. The 16th century was also the age of mercantilism. In an extremely competitive economic philosophy that pushed European nations to acquire as many colonies as they could. As a result, for the most part, the English colonies in North America were business ventures. They still are. The United States is a corporation still to this day. Okay? They provided an outlet for England's surplus population and in some cases, more religious freedom than England had. Or England did, but their primary purpose was to make to make money for their sponsors. Isn't that still to this day? Listen to what it's saying. They provided an outlet for England's surplus population, and in some cases, more religious freedom than England did. But their primary purpose was to make money for their sponsors. Still in 2024. All right. So moving forward, the tobacco colonies. In 1606, King James I divided the Atlantic seaboard in two, giving the southern half of London Company, later the Virginia Company, and the northern half of the Plymouth Company. Or to the Plymouth Company. The first English settlement in North America had actually been established some 20 years before in 1587, when a group of colonists, 91 men and 17 women and 9 children, led by Sir Walter Raleigh, settled on the island of Roanoke. Mysteriously, by 1590, the Roanoke colony had vanished entirely. Historians still don't know what became of its inhabitants. Of course you don't. Girl. Yeah, they don't never know. I don't. Maybe Zari. Maybe the aliens came got them. In 1606, just a few months after James I issued its charter, the London Company sent 144 men to Virginia on 3 ships: the Godspeed, the Discovery, and the Susan Constant. Remember, those are the ships with the crosses on them. They reached the Chesapeake Bay in the spring of 1607 and headed out about 60 miles up the James River, where they built a settlement they called Jamestown. The Jamestown colonists had a rough time of it. They were so busy looking for gold and other exportable resources that they could barely feed themselves. Well, guess what? Now they're going to have to rely on Indians. It wasn't until 1616, when Virginia settlers learned how to grow tobacco, that it seemed the colony might survive. The first enslaved African arrived in Virginia in 1619. Who the hell do you think taught them how to farm tobacco? Mind you, they are foreigners to this land. How would they just figure out how to farm tobacco? Inconveniently, the first African got there in 1619. Slave, mind you. In 1632, the English crown granted about 12 million acres of land at the top of the Chesapeake Bay to the Celsius Calvert, the second Lord Baltimore. This colony, named Maryland after the Queen, was similar to Virginia in many ways. Its landowners produced tobacco on large plantations that depended on the labor of indentured servants and later enslaved workers. Catch that T. But unlike Virginia's founders, Lord Baltimore was a Catholic, and he hoped that his colony would be a refuge for his persecuted Coriolanus. Maryland became known for its policy for religious toleration for all. So Maryland is named after the Queen too. And they trying to make it seem like, oh yeah, we just trying to get religious freedoms. It had nothing to do with people or religious freedoms. It had everything to do with money. It's a corporation making money. The New England colonies, the first English immigrant to what would become the New England colonies, were a small group of Puritan separatists, later called the Pilgrims, who arrived in Plymouth in 1620 to found Plymouth Colony. 10 years later, a wealthy syndicate known as the Massachusetts Bay Company sent a much larger and more liberal group of Puritans to establish another Massachusetts settlement. With the help of local natives, the colonists soon got the hang of farming, fishing, and hunting, and Massachusetts prospered. What did I just say? They would not know where to begin to know how to farm, fish, none, because they're aliens to the land. Girl, yeah, we were smoking tobacco. Let me go get the picture. They had a wonderful picture. I had saw. Hold on. I'm about to show y'all Indians smoking. Yeah, girl, we was smoking that crap, girl. Listen to me and listen to me good. We been. They got a fire picture of not these new ones. I don't want these new ones, but they got a fire picture of this. Let me trick the algorithm. Hold on. Because they be really playing. Because they'll show you these damn Mongolian Native Americans in a second. They'll show you these Mongolian Native Americans in a quick second. I don't need to see this. I want to see. Hold on. Let me do it like this. Let me do it like this in America. Yeah, we were huge on tobacco. That picture I already have. We introduced tobacco in all of them. This is what I keep telling y'all. A lot of our people was tricked into this crap. A lot of our people were tricked, but ultimately, a lot of them just helped. They just did. They just helped. And that's how we got played. That's literally how we got played. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Back up. Because listen, Google ain't shit, bro. Google literally is nothing. Google ain't nothing. That's all I'm gonna say. Here's the picture here. Here you go. Oh crap. Remove that. Oh, I can't make it bigger. I have this picture somewhere. I just don't know where I have it. I have this picture. Yeah, we were the ones who introduced tobacco to them. They knew nothing about nothing. We introduced tobacco to them. I don't have it over here. Damn. But I'll show it to you where I see it at. It's just small where I'm at, but we'll go with that. Look at this photo. You see this? Let me see. That's a photo. If you can see the whole photo, hold on. Let me show you the whole photo because that one's kind of trash. See this photo right here? That man smoking a pipe? That's of tobacco. That's of tobacco. Newman's Best Virginia etching in 2022. This is what the Indian looked like. It's literally showing you. This is what the Indian looks like. Look at that Indian. Ain't he dark skinned? Yes, B-Dub, that's a black person. Ain't he a dark skin? He darker than me. He darker than me. That they introduced tobacco to them clear people. Them clear people ain't know nothing about that. They didn't just learn. They didn't just figure out how to farm no damn tobacco. That don't go like that. Hey, George. Yes, George. That's exactly right. I'm so glad you said that. That is exactly right. And it still works flawlessly to this day. George says, they took advantage of our kindness, and a lot of us got greedy, and they saw we had beef with each other, and they played us on that. They still doing it in 2024. Yep, that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did. I keep telling y'all, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything they did has already been done. Keep that in mind. Never forget that. Now let's get back over here. So, yeah, they taught them how to farm and all that stuff. Fishing, farming, and everything. As the Massachusetts settlement expanded, they formed new colonies in New England. Puritans who thought that Massachusetts was not pious enough formed the colonies of Connecticut and New Haven. The two combined in 1665. Meanwhile, Puritans who thought the Massachusetts was too restrictive formed the colony of Rhode Island, where everyone, including Jewish people, enjoyed complete liberty in religious concernments. To the north of Massachusetts Bay Colony, a handful of adventurous settlers formed the colony of New Hampshire. Now here go the middle colonies. In 1664, King Charles II gave the territory between New England and Virginia, much of what was already occupied by Dutch traders and landowners called patroons, to his brother James, the Duke of York. Remember, we got the English coming in, taken from the Dutch too. All right. It says the English soon absorbed Dutch New Netherland and renamed it New York. They scammed them out of it. They got into it with them Indians, and they was getting their ass whipped. And so what happened was, and they got into it with other people too. And the British came in. We discussed it, and they said, "Hey, you need help?" And they was like, "Yeah, but we can't afford it." They was like, "Don't worry about it. If we help you, then we'll just take over the land." And that's what happened. They helped them and took the land from them. They helped them knock out all them Indians and then took the land from them. Most of the Dutch people, as well as Belgian Flemings and Walloons, French, Huguenots, Scandinavians, and Germans who were living there stayed put. This made New York one of the most diverse and prosperous colonies in the New World. In 1680, the king granted 45,000 square miles of land west of Delaware River to William Penn, a Quaker who owned large swaths of land in Ireland. Penn's North American holdings became the colony of Penn's Woods, or Pennsylvania. See how they naming all these people, all these places after people or places they've already been? Lured by the fertile soil and the religious toleration that Penn promised, people migrated there from all over Europe, like the Puritan counterparts in New England. Most of these immigrants paid their own ways to the colonies and had enough money to establish themselves when they arrived. As a result, Pennsylvania soon became a prosperous and relatively egalitarian place. So these people are spreading out all over the East, and then they inviting people from back home to come in. So they going, "Hey, I don't like the way y'all practicing church on Sundays over here, so I'm gonna go over here and form my own colonies." And then they send word back home, "Hey, if you got money and you want to come to this new world, this land of milk and honey, come on over." And people were coming in by droves. They were coming in by droves because they come into this new land where they don't have to be stuck under whatever religious persecutions they were under, whatever. They have freedom here. Mind you, this is before they let any type of black person come over here. The ones they say were coming over here were the Africans, and they were slaves. But I'm talking about the people who they were inviting, wasn't no niggas. Wasn't nobody melanated coming over here. Not from the other parts of the Americas, unless you're coming through slavery, and damn sure not from any other place. Okay? Because they're trying to turn this place white. All right? So lured by I already read that. The southern colonies. By contrast, the Carolina colony, a territory that stretched south from Virginia to Florida and west to the Pacific Ocean, was much less cosmopolitan. In its northern half, hand-scrabble farmers eked out a living eked out of living, I'm sorry. In its southern half, planters presided over vast estates that produced corn, lumber, beef, and pork, and starting in the 1690s, rice. So this is honestly the South. That's why slavery was much more prevalent in the South, because a lot of the resources that you need were there. These Carolinians, where did I press? These Carolinians, let me back up, let me go down. These Carolinians had close ties to the English planter colony on the Caribbean island of Barbados, which relied heavily on African slave labor, and many were involved in the slave trade themselves. Remember, we went over the intra-American slave trade? We went over the intra-American slave trade that transported more people through the Americas than over from Africa. Remember, only 388,000 people, so-called African slaves, came to North America. They trying to say 12 million went to the Caribbean islands. All right, let's move on. As a result of slavery played an important role in the development of the Carolina colony. It split into North Carolina and South Carolina in 1729. In 1732, inspired by the need to build a buffer between South Carolina and the Spanish settlements in Florida, the Englishman James Oglethorpe established the Georgia colony. In many ways, Georgia's development mirrored South Carolina's. And you know, to this day, a lot of people that live here got family from South Carolina. Like a lot of people who come here come from North Carolina. South Carolina. I swear, everybody I run into, especially if they black, they done came down from the Carolinas. Or they parents and grandparents and all them from up there. I've been saying, man, they got a lot of South Carolina people in Georgia. That's crazy. Yup, Geechee, Sarah. That's the Geechee people. That's them Gullah Geechees. That's them Geechee folk. You right. You absolutely right. But that tells you if they're doing it now, they've always done it. They've always done it. They've always done it. The Carolinas have always went back and forth with Georgia. What the people do now, they've always done. Florida, like my dad told me in that video, and I got to edit that video and put that back out. But my daddy told me that his great-grandmother, they were from Florida. They were Cherokee, where she was Shoki and her husband was Cherokee. But they came from Florida. But Florida and Louisiana band together to fight a lot of wars. So it made sense why them two kept flip-flopping back and forth. My aunt moved to Pensacola, my grandmother's sister. Yes, Louisiana was Florida. It was all one big territory. Long before these folk come in here. So these people, however people are moving today, they've been moving. They didn't just start moving like this. They've been moving like this. So let's get into the Revolutionary War and the Treaty of Paris. This is how we getting into this whole expansion to the West. In 1700, the Revolutionary War and the Treaty of Paris. In 1700, there are about 250,000 European settlers and enslaved Africans in North American English colonies. That's not a lot of people. By 1775, think about that. Think about what I just said. That's not a lot of people. That's not a lot. That's really not a lot of people. What did I press? Oh, okay. How did I go back? Girl, what did I press? I'm not on this yet. I think I I exit out of it. Let me go back to it. My bad. Sorry, you guys. Sorry. All right, let's go back to it. I X'd out of it. On mistake. My bad. All right. All right, now I'm going to share it again. My bad, y'all. Back to where I was. So they're saying only 250,000 Europeans and enslaved North Americans, or enslaved people, Africans as they call us, established, they were only the ones, they were the only people in the North American colonies. That's from Georgia all the way up to New Hampshire. 250,000 people, that's not a lot. That's literally not a lot at all. By 1775, on the eve of revolution, there was an estimated 2.5 million. Then it says the colonists did not have much in common, but they were able to band together and fight for their independence. That's why they fear us being together. It says the American Revolutionary War 1775 and 1783 was sparked after American colonists chafed over issues like taxation without representation, embodied by laws like the Stamp Act and the Townsend Act. Okay, mounting tensions came to a head during the Battle of Lexington and Concord on April 19, 1775, when the shot heard around the world was fired. It was not without warning. The Boston Massacre on March 5th, 1770, and the Boston Tea Party on December 16, 1773, showed the colonists increasing dissatisfaction with British rule in the colonies. The Declaration of Independence, issued on July 4th, 1776, enumerated the reason the founding fathers felt compelled to break from the rule of King George III and Parliament to start a new nation. In September of that year, the Continental Congress declared that the United Colonies of America to be the United States of America. France joined the war, and on the side of colonists in 1778, helping the Continental Army conquer the British at the Battle of Yorktown in 1781. The Treaty of Paris, ending the American Revolutionary and granting the 13 colonies independence, was signed on September 3rd, 1783. They love that 3 number, huh? Now, original flag. During the Revolutionary War, a flag featured 13 alternating red and white stripes and 13 5-point stars arranged in a circle was adopted. This variant is also known as the Betsy Ross flag, as she was believed to have designed it. The stars and stripes represent the 13 colonies. I wonder if they have a picture on here. No, they don't. So, let me see what they they got her picture on here. Here's a sort of a picture. It had the circle, the stars in the circle. So I just wanted y'all to see the flag part. And obviously the stars and stripes kept, that's a dope picture. The stars and stripes kept adding as they kept adding other, places. But here are your 13 colonies. Here are your 13 colonies. And they said originally only 250,000 Europeans and clears embodied all that land. That's lies. They didn't count them Indians that was there. Now, I want to move forward. You guys. We haven't gotten to the Louisiana Purchase yet. Hold on. Give me a second, y'all. I want to move forward. And here, let's get into Napoleon Bonaparte before we move on, because we got to get into Haiti as well. All these people played a part. Let's get Napoleon little bitty ass up here. I haven't been citing my sources. This is Britannica.com. Napoleon I, born 15 August 1769, Ajaccio, Corsica, died May 5th, 1821. St. Helena Island was a French general, first consul 1799 to 1804, and emperor of the French 1804 to 1814 or 15. One of the most celebrated personages in the history of the West. He revolutionized military. He revolutionized military organizations and training, sponsored the Napoleonic Code, the prototype of the later civil law codes regarding education, and established the long-lived concordat with papacy. So that's a little bitty nigga. Jacques Louis David, the Emperor Napoleon, in his study at the Tuileries or whatever. Let's get into it. Early life. Napoleon was born on Corsica shortly after the island cession to France by the Genoese. He was the fourth and second surviving child of Carlo Bonaparte, a lawyer, and his wife Letizia Romolino. His father's family, an ancient Tuscan nobility, had immigrated to Corsica in the 16th century. Carlo Bonaparte had married the beautiful and strong-willed Letizia when she was only 14 years old. They eventually had 8 children to bring up in very difficult times. The French occupation of their native country was resisted by a number of Corsicans led by the Pascal Paoli. Carlo Bonaparte joined Pauli's party, but when Paoli had to flee, Bonaparte came to terms with the French. Winning the protection of the governor of Corsica, he was appointed assessor for the judicial district of Ajaccio in 1771. In 1778, he obtained the admission of his 2 eldest sons, Joseph and Napoleon, to Collège des Autons. Let me tell y'all something. Everything is, you got to know somebody. This man got the people to get on his side, and then he brought his kids in there. That's how you get, even in Hollywood, you got to know somebody. You can't just jump off the porch. It's all tied into blood ties. A Corsican birth, hereditary, and childhood associations, Napoleon continued for some time after his arrival in continental France to regard himself as a foreigner, yet from age 9, he was educated in France as other Frenchmen were. While the tendencies to see Napoleon in reincarnation of some 14th century Italian condottiere is an overemphasis on one aspect of his character, he did in fact share neither the traditions nor the prejudices of his new country, remaining a Corsican in temperament. He was first and foremost, through both his education and reading, a man of the 18th century. Napoleon was educated at 3 schools, briefly in Autun, for 5 years at the military college of Brienne, and finally for 1 year at the military academy in Paris. It was during Napoleon's year in Paris that his father died of a stomach cancer in February 1785, leaving his family in straitened circumstances. Napoleon, although not the eldest son, assumed the position of head of the family before he was 16. In September, he graduated from the military academy, ranking 42nd in a class of 58. He was stupid. He ranked 42nd in a class of 58. He was dumb. He was made second lieutenant of artillery in the regiment of La Fère, and a kind of training school for young artillery officers. How he get? I know how he get it. I was about to say, how he get promoted and the nigga was stupid? His daddy. Garrison, his daddy. I'm telling you. Connection. Garrison at Valence. Napoleon continued his education, reading much, in particular works on strategy and tactics. He also wrote letters sur la Corse, or letters on Corsica, in which he reveals his feelings for his native island. He went back to Corsica in September 1786 and did not rejoin his regiment until June 1788. By that time, the agitation that was to culminate in the French Revolution had already begun. A reader of Voltaire and Rousseau, Napoleon believed that a political change was imperative, but as a career officer, he seemed not to have any need for radical social reforms. I don't think I need to read all of that. Let me see. Hold on. Because this is talking about all the stuff that went down in France. We want to get to, hold on. Here we go. Bonaparte was still the directory of Bonaparte, the directory of Napoleon I. Bonaparte was still in Paris in October 1795 when the National Convention, on the eve of its dispersal, submitted the new constitution of the year 3 of the First Republic to a referendum, together with decrees, according to which 2/3 of the members of the National Convention were to be re-elected to the new legislative assemblies. The royalists, hoping they would soon be able to restore the monarchy, instigated a revolt in Paris to prevent these measures from being put into effect. Paul Barras, who had been entrusted with dictatorial powers by the National Convention, was unwilling to rely on the commander of the troops of the interior. Instead, knowing Bonaparte's services at Toulon, he appointed him second in command. Thus, it was Napoleon who shot down the columns of rebels marching against the National Convention, October 5th, 1795, thereby saving the National Convention and the Republic. Bonaparte became commander of the army and the interior, and consequently was henceforth aware of every political development in France. He became the respected advisor on military matters to the new government, the Directory. Also at this time, he came to know an attractive Creole, Josephine. We all know what Creoles are. Remember, Creole was another word for a biracial. Still to this day, Creoles are mixed people. Creoles are mixed people. That white lady y'all saw on TikTok, that is not a Creole. That is a white lady cosplaying as a Creole. Creoles are mixed people. So he fell in love with a half and half. Okay? Don't let that white lady on TikTok tell y'all she no goddamn Creole. That lady ain't nothing Creole about that lady but the food she eat. Okay? Also at the time, he became to know an attractive Creole, Josephine Tachard de Pagéry, who was the widow of General Alexander de Beauharnais, Guillotine during the Reign of Terror, the mother of 2 children and a woman of many love affairs. She was a slut. She was a slut. Anyways, from every point of view, a new life was opening for Bonaparte. Having proved his loyalty to the Directory, he was appointed commander-in-chief of the Army of Italy in March 1796. He had been trying to obtain this post or that post for several weeks so that he could personally conduct the plan of campaign adopted by the Directory on his advice. He married Josephine on March night and left for the army 2 days later. Arriving at his headquarters, Nice, I think, is it Nice or Nice? Bonaparte found that his army which on paper consisted of 43,000 men, numbered scarcely 30,000 ill-fed, ill-paid, and ill-equipped men. On March 28, 1796, he made his first proclamation to his troops. Soldiers, you are naked, badly fed. Rich provinces and great towns will be in your power, and in them you will find honor, glory, and wealth. Soldiers of Italy, will you be wanting encourage and in steadfast? So I guess he was giving them a pep talk, you know. He took the offensive on April 12th and successfully defeated separated the Austrian and the Sardinian armies, and then marched on Turin. King Victor Amadeus III of Sardinia asked for an armistice. And at the peace treaty in Paris on May 15th, Nice and Savoy, occupied the French since 1792, were annexed to France. Bonaparte continued the war against the Austrians and occupied Milan, but was held up at Mantua. While his army was besieged this great fortress, he signed armistice with the Duke of Parma, with the Duke of Modena, and finally with Pope Pius V, or is that the sixth? The sixth. At the same time, he took interest in political organizations of Italy, a plan for republicanization by a group of Italian patriots led by Filippo Bonaparte. Wait, I can't pronounce these names. Buonarroti had to be shelved when Buonarroti was arrested for complicity in Francois Noel Boboff's conspiracy against the Directory. Thereafter, Bonaparte, without discarding the Italian patriots altogether, restricted their freedom of action. He set up a republican regime in Lombardy, but kept a close watch on its leaders. And on October 1796, he created the Republic by merging Modoni and Reggio nell'Emilia with the papal states or the papal states of Bologna and Ferrara, occupied by the French army. Then he sent an expedition to recover Corsica, which the British had evacuated. Let me scroll down and get to where he get to the good part, because they going through their own situations. Yeah, don't care about that. Now, this would make me feel like Bonaparte was black. Look, it says Bonaparte shared Voltaire's belief that people needed a religion. Personally, he was indifferent to religion. In Egypt, he had said that he wanted to become a Muslim, yet he considered that religious peace had to be restored to France. A Muslim? In Egypt, where everybody was black at the time? Why would a white man want to be a Muslim? I don't know. I don't know, y'all. All right. Let me see. Is this it? All right, here we go. Great Britain alone remained at war with France, but it soon tired of the struggle. Preliminaries of peace concluded in London in October 1801 put an end to hostilities, and peace was signed at Amiens on March 27, 1802. General peace was reestablished in Europe. The first consul's prestige increased still more, and his friends and his suggestion proposed that a token of national gratitude should be offered to him. In May 1802, it was decided that the French people should vote in referendum on the following question: shall Napoleon Bonaparte be consul for life? In August, an overwhelming vote granted him prolongation of his consulate, as well as the right to designate his successor. Bonaparte's conception of the international peace differed from that of the British, for whom the Treaty of Amiens represented an absolute limit beyond which they were under no circumstances prepared to go. The British even hoped to take back some of the concessions they had been forced to make. For Bonaparte, on the other hand, the Treaty of Amiens marked the starting point of a new French ascendancy. He was, first of all, intent on reserving half of Europe as a market for France without lowering customs duties and to the indignation of British merchants. To revive France's expansion overseas, he also intended to recover Saint Domingo, Haiti, governed from 1798 by the black leader Toussaint Louverture, to occupy Louisiana, ceded to France by Spain in 1800. Perhaps to reconquer Egypt, and at any rate to extend French influence in the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean. Now, this is what's going on. So now you got Haiti coming into the picture. We got to get them in here. Haiti's coming into the picture because France was running Haiti. That was their land. That's why most Haitians speak a form of French or speak French. What they call that language they speak out there in Haiti? Somebody help me out. Is it Creole what they speak? Don't the Haitians speak Creole? I think so. Put it in the comments. But they had already owned Haiti. It's Creole. Thank you, Zaria. Patois? I thought that was the Jamaicans. They do the patois. Is it? Okay. I think it's Creole, which is a form of French. Ain't it like French in whatever the native tongue? I know they're going to say African, but ain't it like French in whatever their native tongue was? So now, France owned and they had control of Haiti, but they will soon lose Haiti because Haiti is going to rise. This is going to directly affect how they will lose Louisiana. Because, mind you, that's going to affect all parties involved, even Thomas Jefferson and the 13 colonies. That's going to affect all parties involved because now, first of all, we got a bunch of Negroes rising up. And they won. And that's part of the reason why they've been destitute in Haiti ever since. I think America is still bitter. And France, they still bitter that them niggas whipped their ass. It's crazy. Let's get into the Louisiana Purchase was driven by slave rebellion. Haiti. This is where Haiti comes in. And you know what's crazy? Haiti will be like, if it wasn't for us, this, that, and the third. And they have a point. I just hate when they be trying to make it seem like, we were nothing without them. And that's just not the case. It did jumpstart a lot of things, but not like they be making it seem.
The Louisiana Purchase was the real estate deal of the century, the 19th century. For mere pennies an acre, the United States of America doubled its size overnight. Here's how the deal went down. When Thomas Jefferson became president in 1801, one of his top priorities was to take possession of the port of New Orleans. Its prime location at the mouth of the Mississippi River on the Gulf of Mexico made it ideal for American farmers transporting their goods to markets. So Jefferson sent a broker to talk with the current owner of New Orleans, France. The French were interested because Napoleon needed the cash to pay for a war with Great Britain, but Jefferson's first offer of $2 million was rejected. In 1803, Jefferson tried again, this time offering $10 million. The French not only agreed to sell New Orleans, but threw in the rest of the Louisiana Territory for only $5 million more. It's a bargain of epic proportions, 828,000 square miles proportions, from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains proportions, all for mere pennies an acre in today's currency.
Look, this is very important. Now, mind you, France still at war with Great Britain. They don't like each other. Yeah, he bad body meat. He looks so bad. France is already still at war with Great Britain. And they just got their ass kicked by the Haitians. They need money to fight off Great Britain, so they just evacuated out of Haiti. They took all their resources, left them with nothing. They still been trying to get to America ever since. I think that's another reason why America don't let them in. It's not just because they black. They still bitter about that ass whipping. But look, Napoleon needed money. You can't fight a war without money. Napoleon and Thomas Jefferson, they all needed money. So they sold the land for pennies on a dollar so that they can keep their financial freedom, not financial freedom, but their freedom from Great Britain. It was so many wars going on in these days. It's ridiculous. Yep, and it was our land the whole time. People, they say,
transporting their goods to markets. So Jefferson sent a broker to talk with the current owner of New Orleans, France. The French were interested because Napoleon needed the cash to pay for a war with Great Britain, but Jefferson's first offer of $2 million was rejected.
So they caught him at a vulnerable moment is what they did. They caught him when they really needed money. And it was like, yo, you trying to sell this land? And they were like, nah, really? And it was like, shit, well, how you gonna win this war? All right, fuck it. Give it to me, Now, let's get back into it. Let's get into Haiti. Children in pens. The overwhelming stink of human waste. Auction at which human bodies were prodded, compared, and purchased. It was all in a day's work at the New Orleans, Louisiana slave market, the largest and most lucrative in pre-Civil War United States. But if it weren't for a slave rebellion, Louisiana wouldn't be a part of the United States at all. The Louisiana Purchase was one of the history's greatest bargains, a chance for the United States to buy what promised to be one of France's largest and wealthiest territories and eliminate a European threat in the process. But the purchase was also fueled by a slave revolt in Haiti, and tragically, it ended up expanding slavery in the United States. It would have seemed unthinkable for France to cede any of its colonial territories before 1791. The superpower had built a vast network of colonies in the Americas, capitalizing on European taste for coffee, indigo, and other commodities. Can I also say too, the French helped. This is a thing that was passed down too that I read. I can't remember where I read it from, but the French also helped the Indians or the slaves fight the Spanish, because remember, the French don't like Spain either. So when the Indians were going against Spain, because Spain wanted to do this, that, and the third, the French would help them fight. The French would help them fight. So you got to keep that in mind. All of them niggas was beefing. All of these people was beefing with each other. Nobody fucked with each other. Let's be clear. But they were able to put their differences aside for the greater good of the Americas. That's what we have to do as a people. We need to take a page out of their book, but they keep us emotionally charged, so we won't even get to that. All right. It would have seemed unthinkable for France to cede any of its colonies to the territories before 1791. The superpower had built a vast network of colonies in the Americas, capitalizing on European taste for coffee, indigo, and other commodities. None of these held a candle, though, to sugar, which dominated French colonial holdings. And Saint-Domingue, which is known as Haiti, was one of the great sugar capitals of the world. A full 40% of Britain and France's sugar and 60% of its coffees was produced in Haiti, and the lucrative market lent itself to a particular brutal slave trade. So this is where your coffee and your sugar coming from. Coffee and sugar is in Haiti. They said the slavery over there was horrible. A slave's life in Haiti was usually short and miserable. So many enslaved people died of yellow fever and ill treatment that the entire enslaved population turned over every 20 years. I don't believe it. And were held in subjugation through a strict caste system. Though there were 10 black enslaved people for every white person in Haiti, the enslaved occupied the bottom rung of society and were treated like expendable commodities. Meanwhile, Haiti's free black people were organizing. Inspired by Republican ideals of liberty, fraternity, and equality, they pressed for their rights, and some were given the right to vote in 1790 by the French government. But when the colonial government back in Saint-Domingue refused to recognize the law, the groundwork was laid for violence and revolt. In 1791, the storm broke and thousands of slaves revolted. The revolution brought the colony to a state of insurrection and civil war. As slaves killed their enslavers and occupied and burned their plantations, white people defended themselves, then fled. The social order of the island crumbled, and in one attempt to stop violence, France abolished slavery. Under the leadership of Toussaint Louverture, slaves took over the entire island of Hispaniola, including Saint-Domingue and its neighbor Santo Domingo. Can I say this? I grew up thinking that because there was a large Haitian population, or at least Haitian influence in New Orleans, that was the black Haitians coming to New Orleans. That's a lie. That was them clear people running from the black people in Haiti. I learned that later on down in life. There really is no Haitian influence. People will say that because they'll say, oh, this person was Haitian and this person was Haitian. But most of those people were the clears. They were running from getting their ass whipped in Haiti. So that so-called Haitian influence were really clear foreigners running to the New Orleans area to escape from Haiti. That's what that was. That was not black Haitians coming to New Orleans trying to just chill and create a new life. Them people fought on their land and won their land. They fought and won for their land. It was them clear Haitians, them clear so-called Haitians, them clear foreigners leaving. It says it right here. Look. As slaves killed their enslavers and occupied and burned their plantations, white people defended themselves, then fled. It was not the black Haitians. Why would they leave if they winning and whipping their ass? That doesn't make sense. Why am I going to leave my land if I'm going to fight for it? If I'm going to fight for my house, I'm not leaving my house. That doesn't make any sense. It was them clear people running from getting their ass whipped. I'm glad that I read that because I want to add that to it. So now here's the picture of the Battle of Santo Domingo. Yes, the Haitian Revolution. It says, but Napoleon couldn't abide the idea of the island being controlled by formerly enslaved people. Behind the scenes, he plotted to take the island back over and reinstate slavery. But when French forces invaded Haiti in an attempt to restore the original order, the slave rebellion refused to budge. They burned cities and used guerrilla warfare and killed thousands. Them people said, over my dead body, is what they said. They say, over my dead body. France was in shock. And Napoleon began to realize that his dream of a French empire in the Americas might be doomed. He planned to send troops to Louisiana to take over the colony, which he had received from the Spanish through a secret treaty in 1800 in hopes of using the territory as a trade venue for the commodities produced in Haiti. But if Haiti was under the control of the slaves, his plan was for naught. Meaning, if I can't have Haiti, me having this port in New Orleans or Louisiana makes no sense because I need the resources from Haiti to use the port. Without the resources, the port don't make no sense. Thomas Jefferson, seeing the hole, seeing like, oh shit, he desperate. Them damn British, he desperate. Thomas Jefferson and his cabinet themselves, terrified of French presence so close to the United States, used the conundrum as an opening. They approached the French with the offer to buy New Orleans as a port city of vital significance to the American trade that they worried about France owning. To their surprise, France offered to sell them the entire territory of Louisiana instead. So this is what's going on. Thomas Jefferson already wanted that land. He already knew in order for us to be successful, it's got to be bigger than this. This ain't gonna get it. We need this. That Mississippi come through New Orleans, right up in there. That's why they want to buy New Orleans. That Mississippi River, it either comes out or goes in. I believe it was up and down, so I'm gonna just say, they say it goes down, so I'm gonna say it flows up. But let's go with what they say. That Mississippi River flows down right through New Orleans. So Thomas Jefferson and his 13 colonies already had been eyeing this. He waited until Napoleon was fucked up. That's what he did. He already lost Haiti because them black Haitians over there, they dying about their land. They not about, nah, y'all not taking our shit. We dying about it. So he had already acquired the Louisiana Purchase from Spain through a treaty, and we're going to get to that. But he had already acquired the Louisiana Purchase through a treaty, but it was no point if he didn't have the resources from Haiti. Haiti had the coffee. Haiti had the sugar. Everybody in the world needed that, and they needed this port to get the goods out. So without Haiti, he didn't need this. Plus, he got Britain on his ass, who trying to pop him upside the back of his head. So he don't have time to be fucking around. His back is against the wall. I can't get Haiti. Them niggas dying about it. So fuck it. I lost that. Now I got all this land called the Louisiana Purchase, but of what avail if I ain't got nothing to trade through that bitch? So Thomas Jefferson peeking around the corner like, oh shit, got him. Hey, you want to sell New Orleans? And Napoleon needed money to fight off Great Britain. So Napoleon was like, fuck it, you could buy the whole shit. You could buy the whole Louisiana territory if you ask me. Fuck it, I don't want to just sell New Orleans. Take it all, I'm broke, I need money. Because wars cost money. You can't fight wars for free. Wars cost money. So that's how he was able to sell this whole plot of land from New Orleans all the way up through here for $15 million. 15 million of them things because he was desperate. He had to. If he didn't sell it, hell, once everybody see that Haiti whip y'all ass, you don't think the people from the 13 colonies come and get your shit? Yeah, it's monopoly. It's literally the game. Literally the game of Monopoly. Think about the game of Monopoly. Please hear me out. I'm glad you said that, Disha. I'm glad you said that. Think about the game of Monopoly. Let's say I'm doing good at the beginning of the game. I buy Boardwalk, Park Place, and all that, on that rich block of Monopoly. I got all that real estate. I got houses, hotels, and then somebody on the other end of the board, they got Vermont and all this crap, the middle class to low class areas, right? So mind you, while we rolling the dice and going around the board, I'm eyeing Park Place and the other one, right? Because I know that's where the money at. And see, what happens is, as you continue to go around the board, at some point, you're going to fuck up. And that's what happens. You either go to jail, you got to pay taxes, all these things. Now, you getting hit hard. You selling your hotels, you selling all your stuff, because you need to keep your property, you need to keep your head above water. You need to stay out of jail. You need to pay these taxes. Now, my broke ass over there with the cheap stuff, I'm getting money. I'm getting money by the cheap property. My Section 8 houses is doing good. I might go to jail, but it's cool. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm making more money. Now, as soon as you get to around that block one more time and you hit a tax or you pull one of them cars and they say, oh shit, you got to pay X that you can't afford. Now you got to sell your property. Who's normally the one who's able to buy the property? It's the ones who own the cheap shit because they got money. It's just like the game of Monopoly. All Thomas Jefferson did was just sat back and watch. He gonna fuck up. Don't worry. Hey. They probably was like, go get the land. Nah. Wait. He got too many irons in the pot. Chill. Soon as he mess up, we gonna swoop on in and he gonna be vulnerable and we gonna get it for the low. What happened was Jefferson only wanted New Orleans. He only asked for New Orleans, because that's where the ports were coming in and out of still to this day. But he got a surprise when he found out Napoleon was so damn desperate that he sold the whole strip, which was perfect for Jefferson because he wanted it all anyway. It was like a win-win for Jefferson. He was like, oh shit, we got it for pennies on the dollar. That's literally what happened. The game of Monopoly. That's literally what happened. So that's how Thomas Jefferson acquired the Louisiana Purchase. As France and the United States negotiated the Louisiana Purchase, Haiti became an independent country run by the victorious former slaves. But though the victory eliminated slavery in Haiti, slavery increased in the country that purchased the land Haiti had spooked France into selling. The Louisiana Purchase opened up a new can of worms for the United States. How much of the new territory should be open to slavery? So now that these 13 colony people who claim they ran from their prospective lands for religious freedoms, now they say, oh shit, we got more land. And guess what? These lands had people on it. These weren't just vacant lands. This ain't like Texas. You ever drove through Texas and there's just a bunch of vacant land? That ain't this. They got actual people. Yeah, Jasmine, you done fucked up, right? That's what it was. Look, they got actual people on this land. So once we acquire this land, guess what? Now we got to go to war with the people, the Indians, and create prisoners of war. So now slavery will increase because upon acquiring the land, there are people there. You're not going to win them all, but you're going to win. And the people you win over, you're going to enslave them. That's why slavery increased in that section of the land. They're going to tell you, oh yeah, we just brought more slaves over. Cap. They didn't bring no more slaves over. They enslaved the people that were already there. That's why slavery expanded. By doubling the size of the United States, the purchase added vast swaths of territory that pro-slavery advocates argued should be filled with enslaved people. Cap. As farmers headed into the newly created Missouri Territory with their enslaved, lawmakers tussled with the issue of which part should have slavery. It took until 1820 for them to agree on the Missouri Compromise, which drew an imaginary line across the new territory that separated free and enslaved areas. Slavery was now legal in Missouri, and the new state added pro-slave members to Congress. In 1860, there were more than 100,000 slaves in Missouri, and slaves were valued at $44 million, about $112 billion today. Meanwhile, Louisiana, which also became a state after the Purchase, remained a slave state, and New Orleans remained a critical hub of the slave trade. So while a slave rebellion helped drive the Louisiana Purchase, the new territory was destined to become a place of suffering and exploitation for thousands of slaves forced to work there. So this is what we know so far, you guys. Napoleon pulled up. He had the Louisiana. He acquired that from Spain, right? And he had Haiti. Haiti and France went to war. Haiti won. Them white Haitians retreated, most to New Orleans. Napoleon was like, I'm going to send my people back in there. We're going to take the land back. Haiti was like, we still going to die about it. And they end up whipping their ass again. So now Napoleon lost Haiti. He's no longer in charge of Haiti. So him having the Louisiana Purchase or that Louisiana area was pointless because he couldn't afford it, number one. And number two, he didn't have no goods to export in and out that bitch. So he's vulnerable. Here comes Thomas Jefferson. You know you done fucked up, right? Can I get that land out you? Yeah, I sell it to you for pennies on the dollar. Sold it to them, boom. They came in, took the land, enslaved the people that were already there. The reason we know people were already there is because the French and the Spain had many bouts about how they dealt with the people that were there. Spain hated the fact that France was not heavy and hard on the slaves. Not saying that they were saints or friends. That's not what I'm saying. But they were nowhere. They treated them like. I'll give you an example. You remember the movie Django? Y'all remember the movie Django? Think about the movie Django. When Django and them first went to what part of town they were? Texas, I believe it was. I don't remember what part of town it was, but remember Django went to that first man house and he came with the white boy, and when they pulled up, he told the girl, he said, show that, he told the black girl, he said, hey, show him around the plantation while he go do business with the dentist. He said, and then she said, you want me to treat him like white folk? He said, no, that's not what I'm saying. You remember that old jigaboo boy? That old jigaboo boy, high yellow boy, whatever. He said, yeah. Treat him like him. They didn't play like that with the slaves. But when Django went to Monsieur Candy's house, remember? He had the black old lady. He let Django sleep in his house. Remember, even though Monsieur Candy wasn't really French, he cosplayed as a French. I know this is a movie, but I'm trying to give you a visual example. Even though Monsieur Candy, who's played by what's that boy name? He's played by what's that boy name? Who played in Titanic? Yeah, Stephen was mad. Remember that? And he was like, he said, it's my sheets to burn. And Stephen was like, oh no, that's all right. He said, your granddaddy, DiCaprio, that's who played him. He said, your granddaddy turning over in his grave. Because the French were not as hard on the Negroes as they looked at it as status too. Like DiCaprio did. DiCaprio was like, yo, hey, that's your boy? He with you? He like, yeah, all right, bet. He can stay in the crib. It was Stephen who was like, ain't no way, boy. Ain't no way. You gonna let this thing. Remember, Stephen came out, who's that nigga on that nag? Stephen was worse to the slaves than Monsieur Candy was. Yup, and he had a black old lady. Yup, B-Dub. The girl, when he said everybody leave out, and she said, me too, daddy. And he said, no, she said, I know you didn't mean me. That was the French. That was the French. That was the French. You ain't never watched Django, Miss Parker? Oh, girl, you got to go watch that. It's funny as shit, too. But that was how the French treated these people. That's how they treated them. Thank you, Brittany. Brittany says, hey, boo, just stopping by to say hi. To say, hey, Yeah, to say, hey girl, before I go to bed, your replay live from earlier was so good. Hella funny. You keep my frown upside down. Keep shining. Thank you so much, Brittany. Girl, get you some rest, child. Get you some rest. Thank you so much. You never saw it, Zaria? Zaria, you got to go watch Django. You have to go watch it. Miss Your Candy was a miss. If it wasn't for Steven, Miss Your Candy would have got played how many times? Because he wasn't worried about all of it, even though he was cosplaying as a French. But that's just the difference, just so you can see. So nevertheless, Thomas Jefferson moved in, acquired the land, drew the line below the Missouri, and that's where the enslaved people and the free people would be above that invisible line. Yep. He said, you have my interest now when he put that money up, when he was talking about that money. Hell yeah, B-Dub, sure did. Sure did. That's a funny ass movie. Y'all, I love that movie. I could watch that movie over and over again. So now that's where we at with that. That's where we at with that. So now they have They have acquired the, close some of these windows, sorry y'all. They have acquired Louisiana, the Louisiana Purchase at least, which consists of much more than Louisiana. I want to show y'all something else. We got to go somewhere else. Hold on, let me close some of these windows now. Too many windows open. That's why I can't get my life together. Let's get to this treaty. Because everything happened through a treaty. That's how things were happening and acquired, through treaties. A lot of our people had signatures forged on treaties. A lot of them signed them thinking that, hey, girl, this is going to be lit. You know what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is, it was all happening through treaties. Okay, now let's get into it. Louisiana Purchase Treaty, 1803. In this transaction with France, signed on April 30th, 1803, the United States purchased 828,000 square miles of land west of the Mississippi River for $15 million for roughly 4 cents an acre. That is a fucking steal. The United States doubled its size, expanding the nation westward. 4 cents an acre? God damn. Originally, negotiators Robert Livingston and James Monroe were authorized to pay France up to $10 million solely for the port of New Orleans and the Floridas. However, when they were offered the entire territory of Louisiana in an area larger than Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Portugal combined, the American negotiators swiftly agreed to a price of $15 million. Although President Thomas Jefferson was generally a strict interpreter of the Constitution, who wondered if the U.S. government, and especially the president, was authorized to acquire new territory, the desire to expand the United States across the entire continent trumped his ideological beliefs. As Napoleon threatened to take back the offer, Jefferson squelched whichever doubts he had and prepared to occupy a land of unimaginable riches. The Louisiana Purchase was the first major cession of land in a long series of expansions that spanned the 19th century. So we're in the 1800s, right? Within 50 years, the present day borders of the contiguous United States will be solidified with the Gadsden Purchase. Each expansion, though greatly increasing the size of the United States, also exposed the sectional weakness between North and South, especially related to the issue of slavery. As new territories and states were created, the desire to maintain a balance between free states and slave states required a series of fragile compromises, notably the Missouri Compromise and the Compromise of 1850. Eventually, as agreements became more difficult to achieve, civil war became inevitable. In addition, the Louisiana Purchase ignored the potential impact on Native Americans, Indians. The land ceded in this agreement and later expansions was populated with thousands of American Indians across dozens of tribes. As territories and states were established, more and more Americans from the East traveled west. leading to conflict with Native Americans. Ultimately, Native people were forcibly moved onto reservation, losing vast acreage of their tribal lands. We're talking about the Trail of Tears to here, Indian removal, and the U.S. government will force them to change their ways of life and try to erase their religions and cultural heritage. Now, this is where it gets important. This is where it gets important. America acquiring this land of the Louisiana Purchase, this is the beginning of erasing a people. Now they got to have new religion. They got to get rid of their old cultures, new religion, and a lot of them they push to the West. Let's get into it. The Louisiana Purchase Agreement is made up of treaties of cession and 2 conventions regarding the financial aspects of the transactions. Sorry, y'all. Note, the 3 documents transcribed here are the treaty sessions of 2 conventions. One of the payment of 60 million francs, 11,250,000. The other for claims American citizens had made against France for 20 million francs, which is 3,750,000. Treaty between the United States of America and the French Republic. The President of the United States of America and the first consul of the French Republic in the name of the French people, desiring to remove all sources of misunderstanding relative to objects of discussion mentioned in the 2nd and 5th articles of the Convention of the 8th Vendemiaire and 9 on 30 September 1800 relative to the rights claimed by the United States in virtue of the treaty concluded at Madrid the 27th of October 1795 between His Catholic Majesty and said U.S. United States, and willing to strengthen the union and friendship which at the time of said convention would happily reestablish between the 2 nations, have respectively named their, they ain't got a period in here. There's literally no period. No wonder I'm tripping. All right. Which at the time of said convention was happily reestablished between the 2 nations, have respectively named their plenipotentiaries to wit the President of the United States, by and with the advance of consent of the state of the said states, Robert R. Livingston, Minister Plenipotentiary of the United States, and James Monroe, Minister Plenipotentiary and Envoy Extraordinary of the said states near the government of the French Republic, and the first consul in the name of French people, citizens, Francis Marbois, Minister of the Public Treasury, who after having respective exchange their full powers have agreed of the following articles. Article 1. Whereas by the article of the 3rd of the treaty concluded of Saint Ildefonso, the 9th Vladimir and 1st October 1800 between First Consul and French Republic and His Catholic Majesty, it was agreed as follows. His Catholic Majesty promises and engages on his part to cede the French Republic 6 months after the full and entire execution of the conditions of stipulations herein relative to His Royal Highness of the Duke of Parma, the colony of province of Louisiana, with the same extent that it now has in the hand of Spain, and that it had when France proposed it or possessed it, and is such as it should be after the treaties subsequently entered into between Spain and other states. And whereas, in pursuance of the treaty of particularly of the 3rd article of the French Republic as an inconstable title to the domain of the possession of the said territory, the first consul of French Republic, desiring to give the United States a strong proof of its friendship, doth hereby cede to the United States in the name of the French Republic forever and in full sovereignty the said territory with all its rights, its opportunities, as fully and in the same manner as they have been acquired by the French Republic in virtue of the above mentioned treaty concluded with the Catholic Majesty. So they saying we give you all the land and everything that comes with it. Article 2. The cession made by the preceding article are included the adjacent lands belonging to Louisiana, all public lots and squares, vacant lands, and all public buildings, fortifications, barracks, and all edifices which are not private property. So anything public that goes alongside this land is yours too. Article 3. The inhabitants of ceded territory shall be incorporated into the Union of the United States and admitted as soon as possible according to the principles of the federal constitution to the enjoyment of all these rights, advantages, and immunities of the United States, or the citizens of the United States. And in the meantime, they shall be maintained and protected in the free enjoyment of their liberty, property, and religion which they profess. Article 4. There shall be sent by the government of France a commissary to Louisiana to the end that he do every act necessary as he will receive from the officers of his Catholic Majesty, the said country and its dependencies in the name of the French Republic, if it has not already been done, as to transmit it into the name of French Republic and the commissary or agent of the United States. Back up. They saying the people too? As well to receive the officers of his Catholic Majesty, the said country and its dependencies. What is a dependence? Hold on. Is that a person? The quality of being dependent, the quality or state of being influenced or determined by a subject to another. Okay. Reliance, trust. So, okay, it's like trust. Gotcha. My bad. I had to see. So basically, all these articles are giving everything over to France. Everything belongs to France. I mean, to the United States from France. A convention between the United States of America and the French Republic. The President of the United States of America and the First Consul of the French Republic, in the name of the French people, in consequence of the Treaty of Cessions of Louisiana, which have been signed this day, wishing to regulate definitively everything which has relation to the said session, has authorized to this effective of the plenipotentiaries that is to say the President of the United States has, by and with advice of and consent of the Senate of the said states, nominated for their plenipotentiaries Robert R. Livingston, Minister Plenipotentiaries of the United States, and James Monroe, Minister Plenipotentiaries and Envoy Extraordinaries in the said states, United States, near the government of the French Republic, and the First Consul of the French Republic, in the name of the French people, has named as plenipotentiary of the said republic, and the citizen France Marbois, who in virtue of their full powers, which have been exchanged this day, have agreed to the following articles. So here are some of the articles. I'm not going to read them all. The government of the United States engages to pay the French government in the manner specified in the following article of the sum of 60 million of francs, independent of the sum of which shall be fixed by another convention for the payment of the debts due to France by the citizens of the United States. So after they signed the treaties, there were at the conventions is where they signed the treaties. That's basically what this is and how much they bought it for and all that stuff. All right. So now we getting into how the treaties went of 1803. It was between Robert R. Livingston, James Monroe. It was the United States, France, all these people. These people are coming together because they're selling this land. They got to have a convention. They're going to draft up these treaties. Both parties are going to agree. They're going to come together. Okay, yeah, I'll sign here. I'll sign there. You give me all rights to everything and anything acquired on this land. France was like, yep, because we desperate. We need the money. The United States was like, cool, bet. That's what happened there, okay? Now, I want to say, hold on. Let me see something really quickly. You guys like the video if you haven't already. I think we went over some of this. I know what I want to give y'all. He decided to first subdue Napoleon also said Yeah, I think we went through most of this by early 1802. Europe led Jefferson to. All right, yeah, we went through most of this. Hold on. I want to show you. What's this? I can't wait to get to school each day. Y'all bear with me. Like the video if you haven't already. All right, let's get into who Thomas Jefferson sent to do the bidding. This is who Thomas Jefferson sent to do the bidding, okay? It says James Monroe. In addition to making military preparations for a conflict in the Mississippi Valley, Jefferson sent James Monroe to join Robert R. Livingston in France to try to purchase New Orleans and West Florida for as much as $10 million, which we all know they sold it for 15. Failing that, they were to attempt to create a military alliance with England. Meanwhile, the French army in Saint-Domingue was being disseminated by yellow fever, and war between France and England was still threatened. Napoleon decided to give up his plans for Louisiana and offered to surprise Monroe, Livingston, and the entire territory of Louisiana for $15 million. So these are the key players that are acting on that side of America. It's James Monroe and Robert Livingston. These are the people who are going over here to do all these negotiations for this Louisiana Purchase. We don't need to go no further than this. I want to show y'all a video. Hold on. Oh, no. One more thing before we get into this video. The Indian Removal Act. I got to get into that. Trail of Tears. We got to get into the Trail of Tears, then we get into the video. Okay, listen, Lindas. The Indian Removal Act and the Trail of Tears. Before we get into this, keep in mind, the Indian Removal Act only happened, and the Trail of Tears, only happened because of the acquisition of the Louisiana Purchase. They got to do something with all these Indians. They can't stay here. How are we going to take over the land if they stay? And there's too many of them for us to kill. So we got to move a lot of them, and then we got to enslave a lot of them. It's too many. Now, while this is happening, and before and after this is happening, there are many wars taking place. Don't think the people just came in and then all the Indians was just like, oh, Lord, you got me. No, a lot of wars was taking place, but they had to get rid of a lot of people. This is your first migration. You know how we go over the Great Migration? This is the first one of your migrations. The Indian Removal Act, or the Trail of Tears, is the first migration that Black people went through. Taking vast numbers and majority of people and pushing them in one direction. The migration took people from the South and pushed them into Chicago and New York to work in these in these plants. This one, they just pushing them out the way. Y'all got to go, basically. So let's get into it. Territory assigned to Cherokee. See, this is how you know it's some bull, because none of them people mentioned the Indians. They just was like, oh yeah, we just acquired this land and then brought more Africans in. The people of Cherokee Nation, that wasn't the real Cherokees. Let's start here first, because this is about to get confusing. The Cherokee Nation was the $5 footloans. Does that make sense? That was the $5 footloans. So let's go. Territory assigned to the Cherokee. The people of the Cherokee Nation were forcibly removed from their lands in the southeast to the west of Mississippi River. Here's an 1884 map of the territory they assigned to the Cherokee Nation. Here's the map. Mind you, this is supposed to be Indian territory right here. All this is where they went to them folk and said, hey, look, if you go over here, this is going to be your own territory, your own land. They lied, but that's what they said. Look how they drew them white folk. Look how they drew them Mongolians. Negro, please. If that was them, then why can't none of them find their people on the trail? Why can't none of them trace their people back to the Trail of Tears? If you ever want to talk to a Native American about anything, and they talk about how they were the indigenous people, ask them about the Trail of Tears. That'll trigger them. Ask them. According to the photo, look like they're people to me. Look at the people. Don't that look like them $5 foot loans? Why they can't never trace their people back to them? But that's the graphics they give us, though. Cap. Hold on. Okay. Idea for use in the classroom. I don't care about that. The Trail of Tears is the name given to the forced migration of the Cherokee people from their ancestral lands in Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and North Carolina to new territories west of the Mississippi. The journey undertaken in the fall and winter of 1838 and 1839 was fatal for 1/4 of the Cherokee population. This is all around the time they pulling up, they creating the Native American. They gotta, all these people, they gotta be accounted for because they can't say they came here and nobody was here. All around this time, they coming up with this Native American thing. The Louisiana Purchase of 1803 doubled the size of the United States territory. The expansion of white settlements in North America started encroaching on Native American lands, ultimately creating the pressure that led to the removal of Native Americans. President Thomas Jefferson and others proposed setting aside tracts of the Western lands for the indigenous nations. The Cherokee had made significant efforts to assimilate into Europe and Europe-American culture. Many of them adopted Western dress and gave up hunting and gathering for a market economy based on oriented agriculture and became literate. These are your sharecroppers. That's who this is, the sharecroppers. In the 1820s, the nation adopted a formal government with a written constitution. Remember, I told you I asked my grandmother, who was born in the early 1900s, what her grandmother did for a living. And I said, Grandma, you ever known your grandmother to be a slave? She said, no, my grandmother was a sharecropper. I used to go with my grandmother all the time on her land. She was a sharecropper. That is your sharecroppers. These are the people who gave up hunting and gathering for a market economy based on export-oriented agriculture and became literate. Now you're implementing schools. That's these black people that were sharecroppers on this land. That ain't them Native Americans. It's just not. So keep that in mind. Nonetheless, the prevailing sentiment in Georgia favored expelling the Cherokee. The land had simply become too valuable, first for cotton cultivating and later after gold was discovered on Cherokee land in 1829 for prospecting. There were gold buried in Georgia, right here. They probably, if I dug deep enough, they probably got gold back there right now. But they'll take my ass to jail. They would take my ass to jail for finding gold, for digging on my own so-called land. Now the people want to get them out of Georgia because it's too much land and too much resources and minerals here. The cotton is booming. Everybody need cotton. Look. Georgia state government asserted jurisdiction over the entire Cherokee territory, annulled the nation's laws, annexed the land, and began distributing plots by lottery. So basically, they came in and said, "Screw the laws. We about to take over all this stuff, and we're gonna do a lottery for people to come get this land." Bianca said, "My 20-year-old mouth is wide open." Yep. Listen, when you be reading this stuff, put it in real life. And ask your people. I asked my grandmother about her grandmother, And I said, Grandma, y'all ever, you ever heard any stories about slavery? No. Any of your grandmother or any of your aunts, great aunts? No, they were sharecroppers. Yeah, they were sharecroppers. I used to go sharecrop on, I used to help my grandmother on her land all the time. That's the same black people, baby. The Cherokee Nation took its case to the United States Supreme Court. The legal battles that ensued raised profound questions concerning state rights, the status and sovereignty of indigenous nations, and the separation of powers between branches of federal government. Let me stop here. If the Native American can't tie their ancestry back to the Trail of Tears, but yet the so-called Cherokee Nation from the Trail of Tears ended up going to the government to fight to not be subjugated to the land or to the new laws, then how is the Native American the indigenous population? That does not make sense. If the Native American are the indigenous and they cannot trade, I'm telling you, if you want to trigger one, ask them about the Trail of Tears. That's all you got to do. Just ask them about it. If they can't trace their lineage back to the Trail of Tears, because you know where they can trace it back to? The beginning of these 5 civilized tribes. That's it. But if they didn't go through that, how in the hell can they say they are the indigenous people? They're not. Look, in the first 2 rulings on the matter, Chief Justice John Marshall denied the Cherokee legal standing as a U.S. citizen before the court. However, in Worcester versus Georgia, 1832, Marshall held that Georgia could not extend its law over the sovereign lands of Cherokee Nation and had no authority to displace the indigenous people. So at first they lost, and then Marshall held that Georgia could not extend its law. And then they ended up winning. The Cherokee had won a major legal victory, but it proved a hollow one, for in 1828, that's when your boy pulled up, Andrew Jackson. This is when you're going to go from Indian to Negro. Remember we went over him a couple of weeks ago? Now, input Andrew Jackson, who's not only going to start unaliving a lot of these Indians, he's going to start pushing them off too through the Indian Removal Act, and he's going to start reclassifying them as Negroes. We literally went over it. So here he comes. He's now the new president, even though he was a murderer and a horrible person. You want to know why Trump can run as a felon? Do you want to know why? Andrew Jackson. This is the facts. Andrew Jackson was a murdering felon. Andrew Jackson was unhinged. Andrew Jackson was Krishan Rock. That's who he was. He kept getting in trouble. He had a record as long as the day's work. But they wanted him to be president because how much he hated the Indian. He was the only one could come on in and swoop these Negroes up out of here. So they disregarded the fact that he had a record because they needed him to be the president. So let's take it forward. Fast forward. Trump has been convicted of a felony. I hear Negroes all over the world. He's a felon. He shouldn't be able to run. He shouldn't be able to run. That was set in place long before Trump got in there. A felony does not disqualify you to run for president, because if it had, Andrew Jackson would have never been a damn president. That's the facts. So thank Andrew President. Thank the United States. Yup, 34 felonies to be exact. Talk it. Don't make me go pull it up. Talk it. When black people get mad, let me see if I can pull it up. When black people get mad, about Trump and his felonies, I always tell them, welcome to the party. You're late. It was Andrew Jackson who was the first felonious president of all time. But they voted against their better interests. Screw the fact that he a felon. I don't care. We need him to get these Negroes off this land. That's what this was all about. We needed to get these Negroes off this land. I don't care. Screw it. I don't care how many felonies he got. It's cool. We gonna take them because we need them. Let me see. Here we go. Let's get into your boy. Thank him. Don't be mad at Trump. Be mad at America. Don't be mad at Trump. Be mad at America. Let's get into it. Don't be mad at Trump because he's able to run. And I've been saying this for the longest. I'm like, y'all really mad at something that's been in place for hundreds of years. Hundreds. That's why when they been, he's a felon. How can he run? Welcome to the party. You're late. Ain't that right, Miss Deborah? Welcome to the party. You're late. Let's get into your boy. Let's get into your boy, AJ. Let's get into AJ. See what type of Negro or person he was. Duels. Many people think Andrew Jackson fought hundreds of duels. He did have a temper. He was challenged. Now, this is bias. That nigga fought everywhere he went. Andrew Jackson got into a duel everywhere he went. Fact. Let's go. He was challenged, and he challenged others several times. But only one duel resulted in shots fired. The duel in 1806 when he killed Charles Dickinson. Sound familiar? Charles Dickinson? He literally killed the nigga. He killed the nigga. As Jackson maintained his reputation as being hot-tempered, so we admitting that the nigga had a problem, a quarrel with Charles Dickinson over a horse race soon turned violent when Dickinson made rude comments about the character of Andrew's wife, Rachel. Now, stop it. So let's put this in perspective. So you mean to tell me Andrew Jackson wasn't a high-tempered man like that? I mean, he got into a couple of little 1-2 ying, but that man really wasn't like that. They lying. Okay, so him and another person betting on horse racing, the man got mad and said something about his wife and he killed him. Think about that. Think about that. Ain't it messy? Think about that. Look, Jackson challenged Dickinson to a duel in Kentucky to settle the matter. Dickinson, a well-known marksman, fired the first shot, wounding Jackson in the chest. Despite this, Jackson still managed to shoot and mortally wound Dickinson. After several months, Jackson recovered from his physical injuries, but his reputation was tarnished by such scandals and duels. Consequently, he retreated to the hermitage. This is before he was the president. Just so you know, this is before presidency, and we don't care where it originated from. Now they're gonna go into, oh well, it was a European thing. It wasn't like that. That was kind of normal for the Europeans. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Andrew Jackson, let me see if I can find that was just a dueling part. Girl, that man used to get into a duel everywhere he went. He was a gambler and a drunkard. He was a gambler and a drunkard. Hold on. Hold on. Here's another one. Here's another one. This is your boy who they say they only had 1-2 yin. This is the boy they claiming, oh no, he had little onesie twosies, but it wasn't like that. Like I say, y'all want to know why Trump could run? Thank Andrew Jackson. Oh yeah, Tanya, he bust a cap in your ass real fast. He ain't play. Andrew Jackson didn't play that shit. He already was on that looker. He ain't play that shit. Look, January 30th, and he was killing people during his presidency. Look. On January 30th, 1835, Andrew Jackson becomes the first American president to experience an assassination attempt. Richard Lawrence, an unemployed house painter, approached Jackson as he left the congressional funeral held in the House chambers of the Capitol building and shot him, but his gun misfired. A furious 67-year-old Jackson confronted his attacker, clubbing Lawrence several times with his walking cane. During the scuffle, Lawrence managed to pull out a second loaded pistol and pulled the trigger, but it also misfired. Jackson's aide then wrestled Lawrence away from the president, leaving Jackson unharmed but angry and as it turns out, paranoid. Lawrence was most likely a mentally unstable individual with no connections to Jackson's political rivals, but Jackson was convinced that Lawrence had been hired by the Whig Party opponent to assassinate him. At the time, Jackson's Democrats and Whigs were locked in battle over Jackson's attempt to dismantle the Bank of the United States. His vice president, Martin Van Buren, was also wary of thereafter and carried 2 loaded pistols with him when visiting the Senate. These are your presidents, people. They carried loaded pistols. They carried loaded pistols. And this story is told wrong because I learned about Andrew Jackson when I was in college. That didn't go like that. Anytime somebody says something Andrew Jackson didn't like, Andrew Jackson challenged them to a duel. I don't care, nigga. Y'all could be over there talking about what the weather gonna be like tomorrow. If Andrew Jackson felt played, Andrew Jackson challenged you to a duel. And if you didn't accept the challenge, he popped you anyway. He popped you anyway. Don't let these folk rewrite history on this internet and fool y'all. Don't let these folk rewrite history on this internet and fool y'all. Don't let them rewrite history and fool y'all. Andrew Jackson was a hothead. Everybody knew it. Yes, he was a thug, MB908. He was nothing but a low-life thug is what he was. But they didn't care because they needed him to get them Negroes out of there. That's what this is all about. He was a thug, but nobody cared because they needed him to get them Negroes up out of there. Hold on, let me see if this one will tell us. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. Now, this one says that he engaged in several duels, but they only mention the one about Dickinson. Strange. We know about the Dickinson thing, but they'll tell you here he engaged in several duels. It ain't even worth it. But you get what I'm saying? For anybody moving forward, if you want to know why Trump can run as a president, because of Andrew, which is probably his forefather. All right. Where was we? Oh, Jackson was a tireless proponent of Native American resettlement to the West. In May of 1830, he pushed the Indian Removal Act through Congress. This law authorized the president to designate lands west of Mississippi for tribal use and to negotiate treaties ensuring their movement. Jackson supported Georgia's aggressive actions toward the Cherokee and had no intention of interfering to protect the nation, even after the Worcester ruling. The president reportedly uttered defiant words to the effect of John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it. A small breakaway faction of the Cherokee called the Removal Party or Treaty Party met with the U.S. government representatives in 1835 and agreed to a land swap in the Treaty of New Echota. Now, these people who met with them were not Negroes. These are now the so-called Native American. That's the $5 footlong acting as the chiefs. The Cherokee chief and National Council argued that the treaty was fraudulent since the nation's duly constituted government had not been consulted. Yet the U.S. Senate ratified that pact. It says, under President Martin Van Buren, Jackson's successor, federal agents rounded up the Cherokee in the late 1837 and early 1838, driving them off their land and into detention camps in Tennessee and Alabama. A few Cherokee eluded their captors by hiding in the Smoky Mountains. Today, their descendants are known as Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. Confined in stockades through the summer of 1838, the Cherokee grew weaker and began falling victim to disease. Don't they just see how they write y'all? See how they kill you off on paper? Now they dying off too, huh? So Vu, you telling us to stop blindly treating these politicians like they are gods who look out for our best interests of all of the time? Absolutely. Absolutely. Not now, none of these politicians. Not none. Not Trump, not Biden, not the Democrats, not the Republicans. None of them have your best interests at heart. Not none of them. Not none of them. Oh my God, Meek, your mama got cancer? But girl, never complain. We are soldiers and we shall be. Oh, I'm sorry. My prayers are with you, Meek. I didn't know your mama had cancer. I'm reading China Doll's comment. My prayers are with you, Meek. All right, where were we? So now they're falling victim to disease, right? Their forced march. You know why they have to fall victim to disease too, you guys? Because they have to say that this small group of Native Americans are those people. So they can't tell you most of them didn't die, because if they do that, then they're gonna say, well, that was hundreds of thousands of people. How come you don't have that many Native Americans? They have to do that. They have to kill them off on paper. They were killing them off, not in real life. They were killing them off on paper to make it match the people that they have. All right, it says their forced march, the Trail of Tears, began in October under the watch of armed troops. They marched poorly equipped alongside caravans of wagons for more than 4 months through blizzards and bitter winter weather. Their varying routes covered 1,609 kilometers, which is 1,000 miles or so, traversing parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Missouri, and Arkansas. Mississippi and Arkansas rivers until they reached the eastern edge of present-day Oklahoma. At every stop along the trail, funerals and burials were held. The death toll from the internment camps, the migration and the aftermath topped 4,000 out of the population of more than 16,000. They died of exposure to the elements, malnutrition, various diseases, and sheer physical exhaustion. Let me ask y'all a question. If you right now leave from, I'm in Georgia. If people from Georgia right now went on a trek on feet and we made it to, or we were going to, let's say Alabama, because that's what they say, Alabama, Oklahoma, right? I'm sorry, Mississippi, Arkansas rivers, Okay. Will we catch a disease? No, because we're already indigenous to this land. Where are we getting these diseases from? This doesn't make sense. It literally doesn't make sense. They're killing us off by paper. That's why they say the pen is mightier than the sword. That's what you're witnessing right here. Many Native American people in the South and North compromising, as many as 100,000 people were removed from their homelands and relocated under similar conditions. The Choctaw, for example, had their own Trail of Tears. These journeys have come to symbolize the tragedy and injustice in the Native American experience. The Trail of Tears was designated as a national historic trail in 1987 through an act of Congress, but they won't put your face on it. It couldn't be from the foreigners, because remember, Kamiko, you know how you know it wasn't from the foreigners? Because the foreigners were already there. You got to keep in mind, the French were there too. And then them Britain people were already up in the 13 colonies. You got to know this. They were trading back and forth with them people along that area because they needed them to survive. It wasn't the pen is mightier than the sword. That's what I'll say. Now I want to show y'all a video before we get out of here. So what we know so far is this. This is what we know so far. What we know so far is the Louisiana Purchase happened because the French acquired it, but they couldn't afford to keep it because they were still fighting with Haiti and France. Losing Haiti They literally lost everything they could imagine because without Haiti, it did not make sense for any of these folk to keep this Louisiana Purchase because they could not afford it. Thomas Jefferson swoops in, buys the land for little to no money, and then right after he swoops in and buy that land for little to no money, he then moves a whole bunch of these Indians and then enslaved the rest of them. Those are called prisoners of war. Those are called prisoners of war. That's literally what it is. That's all it is. All the ones he couldn't move, he made them prisoners of war, aka slaves. That's literally what happened. We also learned about Haiti's rebellion and how all of that basically went into the... Oh no, this ain't the one. What this is? Okay, this might be something else. These people went into oh, that's something somebody else sent me. All right, I'm sorry. They went into hold on. Let's get into it.
I think without a doubt, the Louisiana Purchase is one of the great turning points in American history. It's hard to imagine the country succeeding the way it has without purchasing Louisiana.
Louisiana Purchase was the result of a treaty negotiated by Robert Livingston and James Monroe with Napoleon of France that gave the United States possession of a swath of territory that would cause us to double in size for $15 million, about 3 cents an acre.
It was originally supposed to be the Louisiana Purchase because that's all that Thomas Jefferson wanted. But the French, for a variety of reasons, offered this almost literally incredible deal.
One of the things that Jefferson was concerned about was that the territory to our west, whoever possessed it, would be, as he said, our natural and habitual enemy. Given the fact that it was almost a law of physics in the 18th or early 19th century that Britain and France were at war, the United States would be compromised and put in a position where its neutrality would be put to the test.
So people think Napoleon had two thoughts. One is he couldn't actually control Louisiana because it's so far away, he can't get troops there. The British are blockading him, and you're seeing unrest in the French colonies in the Caribbean, which is where the real money's coming from back then. And then second, he needed money. He needed money to continue to fight the British, to keep control in Europe. People think he was basically selling us what to him was almost a worthless asset.
The Louisiana Purchase completely transformed the United States as we knew it. And what Jefferson argued is that a treaty this monumental should require much more than simply one president and 2/3 of the Senate, particularly if the Senate divides somewhat on regional grounds. It raises all sorts of fascinating constitutional issues as well as political issues.
The main reason the Louisiana Purchase was controversial was really because of Jefferson himself.
Jefferson had very, very serious doubts about the constitutionality of the purchase.
But on the other hand, there's allowing Americans to remain at peace through the possession of land that would insulate us, presumably, from the troubles of Europe.
If you're going to add a wholly new territory to the United States and new states, do you have to actually amend the Constitution to add those states? And so Jefferson himself thought that you would actually have to get a constitutional amendment to do it.
Jefferson actually drafts a constitutional amendment that would have explicitly authorized the purchase of Louisiana. But when he floated this by his two most trusted advisors, James Madison and Albert Gallatin, they urged him not to try to send this out to the states.
This has been a recurrent theme in American history, given that almost everybody says that if you're going to engage in significant constitutional change, why not get it in writing and why not get the necessary public approval? And the quick and dirty answer is that it's just too difficult.
In a perfect world, this amendment would have been added to the Constitution very quickly, and it would not have put at risk the purchase of Louisiana. Thomas Jefferson lived in the real world.
Jefferson, though, he was constantly worried about the threat that government power opposed to individual liberty. So what he wanted to do was interpret the Constitution narrowly, excessively narrowly, I would say, in order to preserve liberty. But then if these great opportunities happen, you just do it.
It's also true that the Secretary of the Treasury, Albert Gallatin, said, oh no, there's no constitutional problem, because the Constitution very clearly sets up a treaty power. The treaty power says if the president negotiates a treaty and it's ratified by 2/3 of the Senate, then it becomes the law of the land. But what Jefferson accurately perceived is that this was no ordinary treaty.
Jefferson couldn't do it wholly by himself because we had to pay for it. Until 1945, until we had a really, truly large-standing army, everything the president wanted to do had to be paid for, which gave Congress the checkbook as an ultimate ability to stop any executive. So with the Louisiana Purchase, Jefferson could agree to buy Louisiana, but unless Congress appropriated the money and sent it over to France, no purchase would have occurred.
If you could have gotten an amendment quickly and easily, why not? But if in fact there would have been a real risk, either of not getting the amendment at all, or it's taking so much time that Napoleon might have said, wait a minute, I really don't want to go through with this, Jefferson did the right thing, if you do believe ultimately in American expansionism.
Some people try to bring this up as an example of Thomas Jefferson's so-called hypocrisy, but I don't see it as hypocrisy at all. Jefferson had a whole bunch of different principles, all of which were important, and which in this instance were in competition with one another.
I actually think this is a great example of Jefferson becoming great despite his principles, and the conflict within Jefferson and his party between principle and political expediency. And in this case, political expediency won out.
I don't think Jefferson was prone to executive overreach, and I don't really think that the Louisiana Purchase is an example of executive overreach. I mean, this is the executive and the legislature working together, as the Constitution stipulates, to ratify and fund a treaty with a foreign power.
Jefferson, I think, was constantly torn between his principles and noble ideas like the Declaration of Independence on the one hand, owning slaves on the other, claiming he was for narrow government on the one hand and limited federal powers, limited presidency, but once in office, buying Louisiana and claiming the right as a president to do it extra constitutionally.
In his 1810 letter, he says that where the great interests of the country are at stake, when there's an emergency, then we want a president who is willing to act. Now, the fact is, there is no plausible argument that there was any emergency that required the United States to get Montana or the rest of the upper Midwest.
So when Jefferson considered all of these competing variables, for him, it was maybe a difficult decision, but in the end, it was a pretty easy one. He put aside his constitutional scruples and he did what he thought was best for the country. The Louisiana Purchase Treaty was extremely popular. The Senate ratified it by a vote of 24-7. Most Americans very much approved of the idea of the Louisiana Purchase.
Jefferson probably is most famous and most important for the Declaration of Independence. But I think everyone can agree that his great domestic achievement was the purchase of Louisiana.
If we like what our presidents are doing, we tend to say, oh yeah, they have that power. If we are afraid of what they are doing, we tend to say they're overreaching.
So Jefferson, in his own mind, violated his view of the Constitution. And so, of course, this has been one of the things Jefferson's been criticized for, that Jefferson, and this in other areas, acted unconstitutionally because he had this relatively narrow view of the Constitution. But when he was president, he consistently exercised presidential power in very broad ways.
The most important lingering effect of the Louisiana Purchase is the expansion and what that has meant and continues to mean to American history.
It allowed the U.S. strategically to be able to escape being hemmed in and get across and start moving westwards towards the Pacific Ocean, which is what turned the United States into a world power. I think it would have been insane to turn down the deal. And I don't think any president would have. And this is what presidents have done since.
There are going to be times when you're going to have to swallow hard and say the president has to make a decision now. The most obvious example is if we're attacked. But what I would say is that presidents have a proclivity to overestimate the presence of emergency.
In a perfect world, a constitutional amendment would have set a very different and a much better precedent. That when you want to do something that is not explicitly authorized by the Constitution, the only right way to do it is by amending the Constitution.
I actually think Jefferson was wrong on his reading of the Constitution. I don't think Louisiana Purchase required a constitutional amendment. He thought it did because he wanted to keep the Constitution narrow. In terms of the political leadership, I think this was probably Thomas Jefferson's greatest achievement.
There's obviously something troublesome about this, but it's also very clear there has always been a tension between a kind of legal fastidiousness and dynamic political leaders. Louisiana Purchase is one of the most fundamental struggles in American constitutional history.
I saw something in the chat that I wanted to say. And I'm shy. I found a little 2-minute video I want to share about Ohio's situation in this. And I'm going to put it on here. But let me say this before we get into it. This is why I get so frustrated with the Dr. Umars, and get me up here. This is why I get extremely frustrated with the Dr. Umars and the Tariq Nasheeds of the world. Because they got our people fussing, fighting, scratching and scraping for reparations as we deserve them, but from a fictional story of slavery. I'm not saying slavery didn't exist. It existed. But that's not where our reparations lie, not for the reasons in which they are asking. The reparations lie, as I've always been saying, in the land. Somebody said the Louisiana Purchase alone, who said that, should tell us reparations. Chocolate Bunny. But that's why they keep us emotionally charged, crying about slavery, because it keeps our minds off the fact that they literally stole our land. If 50% of us woke up and said, run me back my land, they would either have to kill us or they would go bankrupt. Not even all of us. If 50%, matter of fact, if 30% of us woke up and said, run me back my land, we would literally bankrupt America. They know that. Them agents they put in, like Umar and Tariq, they know that. I didn't know it. I had to get this information in the last 2-3 years. I swear I didn't know it. I was still under the impression, yeah, we deserve reparations because my people were slaves. But they tell you a lie, exasperate said lie through the movies, Roots, through the schools, Black History Month, through the church, and so they continue to tell it over and over and over and over and over and over, so that you keep your eyes off the fact that they really stole your land. They really stole your land. That's what this is about. They know it, you don't. So they keep re-perpetuating that doggone slave narrative so you can keep your mind on emotionalism and not on the fact that they owe you your land. Somebody asked, does it not mean land and money? If you're looking for money, you're looking for the wrong type of reparations. However, land comes with money. Resources are in land. Without land, you don't own nothing. And if you don't own nothing, you don't have no money. That's why people who rent are typically the brokest. But people who own land typically have money because your land produces timber. Your land produces all these things that the government and other people may need, resources. It not only produces resources for you, it produces resources for everybody else. You can build a farm and sell freaking watermelons once a year if you wanted to. The money, you want the money, you got to get to the land. See that check they running down there talking about? Even with Martin Luther King, and I know I'm gonna play the soundbite. I'm gonna play the soundbite. Even Martin Luther King and the Poor People's Campaign, you know what he was bitching about? He wasn't bitching about no money. He was talking about how they gave our stuff away through land grant colleges. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? He was talking about the fact that they gave our land away and undergird undergird its peasants, is what he said, with land grant colleges and even farmers to mechanize their lands. I'm gonna play it. I can't show the video and the photo. Pine is all type of stuff. Listen, if you want to be rich, you got to get the land. Let Martin's word play. Hold on. Let me see if it's gonna play on time.
They built land grant.
No, I need to find a way. Let me get it. Let me get it from somewhere else. Hold on, because I can't play both the video and the audio. They strike the video every time, and I don't want them to strike this. Martin was popped right after this because Martin was on to something that will wake up America. They can't have that. They can't have that. They can't have that. Hold on. This is what got Martin Luther killed. This what got him killed. Not that other thing. It was this. I don't want to play it on here for you. I don't want to play the video and the audio. So I'm going to play just the video. And we're going to go from there. Hold on.
Now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now. Because I've been to the mountaintop.
Is this it? No, this ain't it. Hold on. This is one of the final ones too, but hold on. Martin Luther King is called hold on. I'm about to show you. Even Martin, when Martin caught on, they got him up out of there. Look. When Martin caught on, they got him up out of there. They was like, hell no.
They built colleges.
Let me back him up.
Government money.
Can y'all hear it?
They built land grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms.
Martin is talking about, Mike is talking about the land. I know at the end he gonna say we coming to get our check. He don't mean a paper check. Mike is sitting up here saying, hold up. We were already here. You stole our lands. Then you gave our lands to these clear people. And then you gave them not only the land, you gave them land grant colleges and all these things to mechanize their farms. That's how the people make money. I told y'all earlier, the clear boy who worked with me told me he grew up on 280 acres of land. His great grandkids won't never go poor. Look, they give you the game of Monopoly to tell you the truth. Look.
They built land grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
Do you know what he's saying? They undergird their peasants with an economic floor. I can't find that part, but this is what he's saying. Them foreigners that they pulled up in here, the land that they took from us, they gave to them. Not only did they give it to them, they built land grant colleges. Listen, to teach them how to farm their land. So I'm gonna give you this land. You ain't gonna know how to farm it, but we got this college you can go to for free that's gonna teach you how to farm. Then he says, not only that, they gave them mechanized farms. So they gave them machines so that they can, so they don't even have to break their necks or break a sweat to even farm. Then he said, then they paid them not to farm. The money is in the land.
Washington with us, even if you have to bring a whole.
The money is in the land. You want the money? You're gonna have to own land. That's the only way. Without land, you won't make it. Let Martin tell you what's up. When by the time Martin made that speech, they said, "Oh hell no." He was gone very shortly. Matter of fact, days after this, he was gone. Yeah, look, to put it in layman terms. Thank you for saying that. To put it in layman terms, free land. Hold on. Somebody put it in the chat. Hold on. Free land, free training, free equipment, and per diem. That's why we stay in the ghettos. That's why they put us in Section 8 in ghettos. It's the land. It's not the check. That's what annoys me with Tariq Nasheed. Because he knows that them people not gonna get no check. He know it. I believe it in my heart of hearts. He knows it, but he don't give up because it makes him money. That's why I don't like him. Look, I'm gonna let Martin tell you.
They built land grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. This is what we are faced with, and this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
You get it? He's talking about the land. He ain't talking about no actual check. He said, y'all took our land, gave it to them white folk, taught them how to farm, gave them all the machines, then paid them not to farm. So this time, and he said, y'all the same people that tell a black man, pick himself up by the bootstraps. Yep. Look, this him about to burn the bush.
That dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. Now, I'm not one to lose hope. I keep on hoping. I still have faith in the future. But I've had to analyze many things over the last few years, and I would say over the last few months. I've gone through a lot of soul-searching and agonizing moments. And I've come to see that we have many more difficult days ahead. And some of the old optimism was a little superficial, and now it must be tempered with a solid realism. And I think the realistic fact is that we still have a long, long way to go, and that we are involved in a war on Asian soil, which, if not checked and stopped, can poison the very soul of our nation. I'm not going to say that all of our problems will be solved if the war in Vietnam is ended, but I do say that the war makes it infinitely more difficult to deal with these problems. When a nation becomes obsessed with the guns of war, it loses its social perspective, and programs of social uplift suffer. This is just a fact of history, so that we do face many more difficulties as a result of the war. I confess.
Listen, now after he did all that, he's expressing regret. Here's him talking about how we were here.
It's tied up in the destiny of America. Before the Pilgrim Fathers landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before
the Pilgrim Fathers landed in America, we were here. This is when he woke up.
Pilgrim Fathers landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before Jefferson etched across the pages of history the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence, we were here.
Before Thomas Jefferson, who we just learned about, signed the Declaration of Independence, we were here.
Before the beautiful words of the Star-Spangled Banner were written, we were here.
Before they wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, that means before they formed these 13 colonies and created the so-called America, we were here.
More than 2 centuries, our forebears labored here without wages.
For more than 2 centuries, we labored here without wages. 2 centuries is 200 years.
They made cotton king. They built the homes of their masters in the midst of the most humiliating and oppressive conditions. Yet out of a bottomless vitality, they continued to grow.
He started to talk about how we build the homes of our masters, even though we were stolen from and kicked down. Listen, Mike woke up at the end, but by that time, the damage was already done. That's why I go back and forth with Mike. I ain't gonna lie, because a part of me wants to believe that he didn't think he was doing nothing as bad as he thought he was doing. Part of me wants to believe that, and he got juked too. But I know he was definitely a government agent, so I struggle with that. But even at the end, I don't know if he was just on some mad day shit. He really started preaching, but you don't hear that in school. I don't care what kind of college course you take. They don't teach that at the college. None of that. If it were not for TikTok and social media, we would have no idea. They told us he did the I Have a Dream speech, then he got shot. That's what they told us. Whole time the man lived about 3-4 years after that. Yeah, George, or what he was told. You want reparations, you will not get reparations. I'm telling you, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just being honest. And that's why I despise the Tariq Nasheed as it pertains to how he got our people running up there to D.C. asking for these damn reparations that he know good and well we are not going to get. If you want reparations, you are absolutely going to have to get it in the land. That is 1,000% what they owe you. See that reparation shit? You can't even really prove for real that even is real. Let's talk about it. Because all they got to do is say, well, actually, we lied to you. It didn't even happen like that. So now your whole reparations argument about slavery is going down the drain. Your reparations come through the land. It's documented. All you have to prove is that was your ancestor. They pushed off that land. That's it. And that's documented. It's documented. How you think some black people getting their lands? Because it's documented who they pushed off the land. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. It's documented who they pushed off the land. That's why genealogy, that's why they pushing y'all to go get this goddamn swab your mouth. So you can keep your mind off the fact that they really owe you land. And I was talking to my daddy. My daddy said 40 acres ain't shit. The amount of land we own, 40 acres wouldn't even touch the tip of what they owe us a piece. Because we owned all of this. All of it. Let's get into Ohio and their piece in the Louisiana Purchase for Shy. Hold on.
You don't have to pay attention to. This is another map of Ohio. Again, the southeastern part of Ohio, the corner. But you can see here more closely how this grid starts to look when it's imposed over a relatively large amount of space. And as I said, this is hilly land, right? You don't have to pay attention to topography when you do this. You can just kind of be like, yeah, it's a grid. Looks like a grid to me. I mean, I don't care if there's a mountain or a river. I'm going to put a grid down. And this is exactly what we did. There are a few spots where we made special arrangements for topography, but for the most part, we completely ignored it, right? Look at San Francisco. Somebody looked at that city, which is hills by the ocean, and said, let's put a grid on top of it. So the streets go at 25-degree angles. Well, that's what they did. Pittsburgh is no different. It's been this pattern. And so when you superimpose this, right, on something as big as Ohio, it ends up on the whole country. This is a cartoon, basically, but it ends up in the whole country. So what this represents is basically the way that the systematic land subdivision, they call it here the gridiron pattern, which sounds like a football field, but basically the way this grid was implemented. And it went, as I said, from the Allegheny Appalachians west, right? With Texas, I mean, really, and a little bit in the New Mexico and then the California coast. There are places where it doesn't exist far west, but not many, right? We kind of used this and said, whoosh, we're going to wipe the whole thing clean with a grid. This is the way the planning. So this is one piece of this national planning effort from the 18th century where people are thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? And this is what they did. So the grid that you see out there in the world is the grid that's conceived at this moment. And you've heard of something called the Homestead Act, right? The whole homesteading thing. Some of you might have
Homestead Act, that was one of the acts that they used against us.
Grandparents or great-great-grandparents that homesteaded. That's based on this. That comes in 1861 during the war. It uses the same concept that's laid out in the 1780s for allocating land. So when Americans start to homestead places like Iowa and Nebraska and Oklahoma and those places, they're doing it along the same survey lines that they were doing it a generation, 2 generations earlier.
Let me translate what this person said. Basically what he said was, Ohio wasn't Ohio because it was all a whole bunch of land mass. And what had happened was when them clear people was getting these lands with land grant colleges, they just settled along what is now the so-called land mass of the Ohio Valley, because Ohio as a state was not that in the 1800s. It just wasn't. So I'll look for some more stuff, Shy. Miss Parker said a DNA test went down to $30. They need more people to swab their mouths and believe they're from Nigeria. Yay. They need more people to swab their mouths so that you can believe you from Nigeria. Oh yeah, squatting act. That's why the people could squat in 2024, because that's one of the things that they use to take your land. The Squatters Act, the squatters' rights. That was one of the key things they used to take your land. All you got to do is be away. And somebody come sit their ass on your land and you can't do nothing about it. They own it now. Typically a foreigner. You want reparations? You got to get it back in the land. A lot of people are so hell-bent on living in these cities and not working for a living. We thought these people who was sharecropping and worked on these fields were miserable. Them people were happier than we would ever be. Them people ain't had nowhere near the worries we had. Let's talk about it. They ain't had to worry about how the bills was going to get paid. They ain't have to worry about the lights being cut off. They ain't have to worry about food. Them people ain't have a third of the worries we had. It looked worse than it was. If you want your reparations, they're not going to write you a check because they know they lied to you. You have to get it back through ancestral land. They stole my land, my people's land, and they stole your people's land. And they keep you docile through the church, but they keep you confused through school, social media, and all these so-called Pan-Africans and all these people, these agents they put in the community to keep you thinking that you ain't nowhere near indigenous to this land here. Because once you figure that out, then you're going to start thinking, well, wait a minute, if I'm indigenous to this land, well, then what really happened? And then once you figure that out and you realize they stole your great-grandmother's land, then you're going to say, give me my land back. And they don't want that. So when y'all ask why I don't like these people, because I know what they're doing and they know what they're doing. That's why I don't like them. With that being said, y'all, I'm about to get off here. I appreciate y'all. I'll joke y'all up out of here. It's been 3 hours damn near. Yeah, girl, 3 hours. Jesus Christ. Let me get off of here. I appreciate y'all coming here tonight. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. We'll do back to gossip tomorrow at the dollhouse. I appreciate every single one of y'all. I'm spring cleaning this weekend. I got things to do. Okay. Y'all, if y'all want your land back, if y'all want your reparations, it's through the land. It's not through that check through slavery. Because the fact of the matter is 90% of us can't even really prove that our ancestors were slaves. Because a lot of those documents talking about slave this, slave that ain't even real. Fact. That's why ain't not one black person in America has ever been paid through slavery. Think about it. There has not been one black person in America that's gotten a check from slavery. Ask yourself why. You don't have to do it as a group. Not one black American has ever gotten a check via slavery. Ask yourself why. With that being said, I'm going to jolt y'all up out of here and take Saint outside. I love each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all for being here. Like the video if you haven't already. I'm out. Peace.
Mic check, 1 2 1 2. We live, baby. Come on. That's right. Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go. It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I want? Blaze up. Come on, Blaze up.
It's the beat for me.
Wah 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 for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we are. For your boy. For your boy. Also for your boy. Fix it for your boy. Drop it for your wah 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 lift it up, Then it bust it open, lift it up, yeah. Come on, lift it up, Then it bust it open for your B-O-Y. Bend it for your rockin' for your lift it up, baby. Mix it with your bustin' up. Come on, Blaze, you know. Drop me a nasty beat.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo dog time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.